Oh Lord. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I am so sorry. I am so late. I was knocked out. Do you hear me? Welcome back to the Lit Lane Jury Box. I was knocked out. Hey Lady T, hey Daniel. Let me share this video. I made some tacos again today because me and my son are really enjoying these tacos. And I ate 4 tacos. I knew I should have known when I ate that. When I went up in there and made 2 more tacos, I should have been like, oh Lord, this is not a good idea. But it seemed like a great idea at the time. And it was good. But baby, I laid down across that bed and fell out. Hey Kurt Vixen. Good evening. But tonight gonna be good. Tonight we're gonna see the interrogation for the defendant Sean Finnegan. Let me and I wanted to go ahead and come, even though I'm an hour late. I still wanted to come, and I still wanted to get this with you guys. So hey, my bad. But everybody on a late pass all week. Hey, and Renee, those tacos were so good, and I had made some tacos last week. Oh, and Renee, can't you tell my eyebrows all over the place? Cause I just got up and came straight over here. I was in my bed, knocked out. I'm talking about knocked out. Them tacos were so good. I'm trying to share this and let people get here. But tonight we're gonna watch the interrogation, and then I think we're gonna go back tomorrow and watch the coroner, the medical examiner. But I figured like tonight, because we've been watching 2 days of kind of drier stuff, that we'll watch something a little bit more exciting tonight with the trial. Guess who here, y'all? Stuff that we'll watch something a little bit more exciting tonight. Watch this. Champ. I think I just had a tired day today. I went to go to the doctor. I went and saw my therapist today. Then I ran a couple of errands. And I think all that mixed with them tacos just woke me out. I did not call you, Rock. Come here, champ. You want to say hello to me and Renee too? Say hey, champ. This is the proud papa, champ. He the one who made it with the dog downstairs. Why you like that? People gonna say you say my breath stink. Champ. Okay, y'all can see it's not my breath. Like, y'all already know that dog downstairs, the puppy downstairs, gonna be so funny looking. Hey, Silver Lining, good evening. Welcome to the Lit Lane Jury Box. Silver Lining, that's one of our new pit crew members, y'all. And guess what? She might think this is my dog, but you say you've been in the cloud. Y'all know this is Champ, my stepdog. Now, Rock got an attitude. Rock left. As soon as I called for Champ and picked Champ up, Rock left. Oh, no, here you go. Come here. Come here. Say hey to Renee in that lane. Oh, dang. Did you eat a taco? You feel heavy. Oh. Say hey, Rock. Rock, look this way. Good boy. Look at this way. This way. Say hey, Rock. His eyes dirty. There go Rock. My big boy. Rock is heavy. He is stocky. But anywho, y'all, that's the dogs. So y'all come to y'all own assumptions that y'all see Champ here, right? But you know that's my stepdog, so I'ma still get visits with my stepdog. Thank you, Leak You. Thank you, Leak You. Thank you. You know we're gonna be going over to Trial Watch with Demetra come January. And that's actually my backup channel that I used to have Seymour Lane. So if you were subscribed to Seymour Lane, you're going to still be subscribed over there. Rock is not fooling with you after you said you would eat him. I walked past him. Oh, good. I'm giving everybody a chance. That's 12 people. I'm going to give it 3 more minutes. Then we're going to get started. What's up with Snack in the Mill? You on time, Snack, because I'm an hour late. Snack walk up in here talking about, look at Snack talking about, oh, I'm finally on time. Yeah, I'm an hour late. Girl, these eyelashes wonky. I was up in there knocked out. So that means I'm going to be up all damn night, right? But anywho, y'all, tonight should be good because tonight we're going to do, did I say, hey, went to POP, hold me down? Tonight we're going to do the interrogation, right? And the last few trials, we saw the interrogation footage for Quentin Nixon when he was up in there without that shirt and stuff on. We didn't really see the interrogation footage too much for Leilani. So we've been seeing interrogation films because even the one before that about the house with the all of them was in there smoking that meth and stuff, they showed some interrogation footage from that too. So y'all know the interrogations are always good. So let me go ahead and monetize this video and we will get started. Thank y'all for coming and joining us here in the Trial Watch with Demetra, the state of Tennessee versus Sean Finnegan. This is, in fact, a capital punishment trial. The defendant is accused of kidnapping, holding hostage, abusing both sexually and physically a victim, Jennifer Paxton, and then going on to unalive her. Afterwards, he kept the body in a freezer wrapped up, half nude. We found out yesterday in a stand-up freezer for almost 8 months. His accomplice, co-conspirator, cohort in this was his girlfriend, Rebecca Ditchman. She already has filed guilty and also turned state witness and is serving a life sentence there in Tennessee. So let me close all this stuff out so we can play this without no buffering. I got some coffee on up in there. Sorry, M. Renee. But I figured it'd be still, y'all want me still to come. Right? I figured better late than never, like I'll be telling y'all. And I'm going to cut this camera off because I feel like I'm looking droopy. And y'all got some new babies in my fish tank. I got 2 sets of babies. I got 1 set of babies, my pink convicts, which I let them breed just so I can have them and have them for feeder fish. Even though people might be against that, but I like to feed my fish live fish as well as they regular food. So the pink convicts, they just spawn. You can't too much sell them. So I let them do their natural thing of spawning. Then I feed the fry to my other tanks because I got 6 tanks. And then I got I think I might make a short and post it up or something. But I got 2 different type of Acara, which is a cichlid. I got natural Acara, the native natural blue Acaras, and then I also have the hybrid, which is electric blue Acara. And even though I had the 2 sets of Acaras and I had them with possible partners in the tank, a natural and a hybrid Acara partner up and spawned, and so now I got babies in my tank from those 2 different types but same fish, right? So I talked to the man at the fish store today. He saying that nothing be wrong, they be fine. It's just that some of them will be like in the natural colors and some of them will be the hybrid colors. So that should be interesting. And that's what I got going on with my fish. I don't know why I act like y'all asked me that. Nobody asked me that. Let's get started. Nobody asked me about my fish. Oh, and I also checked on Apollo's shots. So I know I'm going to take Apollo to get his shots, his puppy shots at 5 weeks. All right.
State calls not viewer.
Okay.
Interrogation.
They're coming.
I'm glad to see they're not working you as hard tonight. Remember, now you can drop down. Let me change my background.
Sir, if you'll step up here next to me,
Dang, all the people walking in behind him like he a criminal. Where they coming from? Hey, Living, we just getting started. I was late tonight. I overslept after my tacos.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you. Have a seat, please. If you'll say both your first name and last name and spell them both for me.
First name's Michael. Last name's Uher, Uher. Michael's Michael.
If you'll be sure to speak up in that microphone, that'll help everybody hear.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Questions, gentlemen?
Thank you, Your Honor. Can you tell us what agency you worked for back in August of 2020?
Oak Ridge Police Department.
And what was your rank and duties at that
I
time?
was a captain. I was, it's kind of a joke. They said I was over everything except the patrol division, everything from animal control to CID to narcotics.
Were you working in that
So it's
capacity
definitely a
on
small
August 5th
town,
and 6th
obviously.
in 2020?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
In your role as a captain, were you called in in an investigative capacity on that date?
Yes, ma'am.
Could you tell us about that, please?
Don't recall the exact time it was. It was late at night. I know it was dark, and can't remember if Lieutenant Hines contacted me, but they said that they had a girl that they had talked to, and that she had went to several different police agencies to report a homicide, that her boyfriend had killed a girl and had her in a
Welcome
freezer.
back to the Lane Jury Box, sweetie.
When I
Good
first
evening.
heard that, of course, right? At first, I was skeptical of whether or not this was real, but I responded to the police department.
Beef Sector Podcast. Good
They
evening.
were gathering a search warrant based on the information that they had obtained, and a search warrant for the house.
So as a result of the execution of that, did you participate in an interview of Mr. Finnegan?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Do you see that person you interviewed in the courtroom today?
Yeah, he's sitting over there in a blue and white checkered shirt.
May the record reflect that he's identified the defendant. Who else was present at that interview?
Detective Marvell Moore.
All right. Did you
Welcome
have
back,
a
Sassy,
full
to the
investigative
Jury
file
Box.
before you did this interview?
Everyone.
No, ma'am.
What kind of basis of information did you have at this point?
I received information that this man had killed this woman and that he had choked her. Information that possibly hit her with a baseball bat and had kept her captive, killed her, and locked her up in a freezer.
Were you present for the interview of the other person who was present?
Damn,
in the
his
house and was having
recap
the
sound like
reporter, the
mine.
complainant?
No, ma'am.
Okay. When you interviewed Mr. Finnegan, did you read him his Miranda rights?
I did not. Detective Moore did.
Okay.
I was present when he did it, though.
Was he given the opportunity to look at the form himself?
Yes, ma'am.
Did he indicate that he consented to speak to you?
Yes, ma'am. In fact, I had him initial. Marvell Moore said it, and I reiterated, please initial each part of the Miranda and the waiver as you understand it, and he did that.
May I approach?
Now this man here look like an old school detective. Good cop, bad cop.
Do you recognize that form?
I do, ma'am.
Could you tell us what it is, please?
Pardon me?
Could you tell us what it is?
It's a Miranda rights form and a waiver of those rights.
And whose signature is on that?
Sean Finnegan's, and saying correct that it was Sergeant Marvell Moore at the time.
And are their initials indicating each separate section of the rights waivers?
There is by Sean Finnegan, SF. Yes, ma'am.
Move to the state's evidence as exhibit number 53. Thank you. Did Mr. Finnegan make any incriminating statements to you in the course of this interview?
He did. Yes, ma'am.
What's the first thing that you recall that he admitted to you?
The first thing that he said to me was that he had met this girl where he worked at the Pine House in Knoxville, and she agreed to go back to the house with him. Said that she willingly came back to the house, and said that they had sex upstairs in the bedroom, and he needed to use the bathroom and urinate. Not the terminology used, but for the courtroom purposes, to urinate. And she wanted to take a shower and get cleaned up. And while he was urinating, she had went back downstairs naked. And when he came down the stairs, he heard screaming. And he initially told me that Rebecca had hit her with a baseball bat. And then he said he flipped out and says, "What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?" Then he told me that Rebecca cleaned up the blood from where she was hit in the head with a baseball bat, and that the girl just voluntarily walked up the stairs with them back up into the bedroom.
So after she had been beaten, she walked up. She meaning the victim, you mean?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Jennifer.
Okay, so after she was hit in the head, the victim, on her free will, walked up the stairs.
Just his initial statement was, "We brought her up the stairs," but then later he said that she just walked up the stairs past his mother wearing a hoodie, which is very conflicting.
Okay.
Wow. So already that's something new that we've learned. So we're learning that the defense team and their efforts to throw reasonable doubt towards the fact that it was actually Rebecca who unalived the victim. This is the first time we're hearing law enforcement or anyone indicate that the defendant himself said that. So upon him being arrested and confronted, the first thing he said was that Rebecca did it. Very interesting.
Did he make any statements about the freezer?
He did. He said he rented the freezer and had it delivered to his house. I found it a bit odd that you have a freezer delivered to the upstairs bedroom closet.
I told you I would rent
He
it.
needed to put it so his mother wouldn't see it.
Did he make any statements about what had happened to Jennifer Paxton's clothes?
He said he disposed of the clothing. He said that he got rid of the clothing, and I asked him, was that because it was evidence? He said, yes, he didn't want to get in trouble. He didn't want to go to jail.
Did he say anything about the baseball bat?
But he kept the body.
He did. He said he got rid of the baseball bat, and he said it was long gone. He got rid of it early. He threw it away. He said that he had put the clothes in the trash. I had asked if they were bloody clothes, and he said that they weren't that bloody.
So he got rid of everything but the damn body.
Did he make any statements regarding the victim
Insane.
being restrained?
He did. He initially said that Rebecca had chained her up, and I made the comment, chained her like a dog. And he said that Rebecca chained her to the bed, but that he had tied her up using strings that he had laying around the house. He later said about the chain that he allowed Jennifer to go to the bathroom. And then he said that Rebecca told him to put the chain back around her neck. So he wrapped the chain around her neck, but he indicated that Rebecca was the one that put the lock on it, taking some of it away from himself.
No, sustain.
Yeah, just say what the statement was, he said.
Yes, ma'am.
Was this an interview recorded?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Was that audio and video?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you seen that video? And I believe it is an accurate representation of the interaction that you had with Mr. Finnegan on that
Yes,
early
ma'am.
morning.
Yes, ma'am, it is. And I actually, first time in a couple of years, watched it last night. It kept me up all night.
Your Honor, please, may we that video?
He keep ad-libbing, girl. He must be retired now.
And that's editing that I said that needed to be removed. It wasn't relevant to the case. So if you see something skipping there, don't fill in the gap. Remember that that's something I did, and I just want you to consider what's on the video.
Can you tell us, if you need to turn around a bit to see it, who is that we're seeing on the
Now I think we actually get to
I'm
see the
sitting to
interrogation.
the left in the chair, and that's Sean Finnegan.
Yes, we
sitting
will
there
have
with
order
his
tonight.
back and left shoulder against the wall with the outlet right behind him. On the right.
Oh, I think we're gonna get to see it. Let me
Yeah.
see.
Hard to tell. But
Yeah.
is there anyone else there? in the room.
Detective Moore, yeah, I'm sorry, because I couldn't tell. He's sitting right at the lower part of the screen where that play button is with his hand on the notepad.
You got those? Yes. All right, we have two questions. Before we ask you the questions, you must understand what your rights are. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court. You have the right to talk to a lawyer for advice before we ask you questions, and have a lawyer with you different questions. If you cannot afford a lawyer, or want one, a lawyer will be appointed for you. If you want to answer questions now while the lawyer is present, you still have the right to stop answering at any time. You also have the right to stop answering at any time to use told to. Now I'm going to read your lawyer rights. I have read the statement of my rights and I understand what my rights are. I am willing to make a statement and answer questions. I do not want a lawyer at this time. I understand and know what I am doing. No promises or threats have been made to me, or no pressure or coercion of any kind has been used against me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes. Okay. The time is okay. If you understand those, you have to make what you know and sign the name here.
Hey, Miss Steph 219, girl, you got here just in time. And Lady Steph might be in the cloud. I hope you're in the cloud, girl, because this is the interrogation. They finna start showing it. Now we're going to have to look over her shoulder. I keep checking it. Yeah, we're going to definitely see it. Let me get me some coffee, y'all.
So one of the jurors is saying they're having a difficult time understanding this or hearing this, but this is what the tape is, right? Okay. Okay, so we'll try to turn it down, but, right. We'll turn it on, but you're correct. And so just do the best you can. We got to dance with who brought us. Okay? All right.
She took a shower, came downstairs. I went upstairs to go take a piss. When I came back down, she had she not all that was she bought all the schizophrenia, depression, and all that. So I guess maybe she got a black apple or whatever. She hit it with a baseball bat. And I freaked out, I didn't know what to do. She was so loud at that point. So we brought her upstairs to try to clean her up. And I went to work the next day. When I came home, she strangled her. And the only thing I could do was I freaked out. I ran in the freezer and I put her in the freezer. I didn't know what to do with her. She's been in there for like 9 months. I didn't know what to do with her. The thing was, any camera that came sex with this girl like to be choked. No. I mean, I don't know, like I said, I went to work when I came home and she was dead. And I didn't know what to do. And I was like, Rebecca, what did you do? She's like, I just didn't know. What is grateful for?
Okay, I'm back.
That song that I'm like,
Let me see if I can. That's how he talking. Let me see something. Yeah, he whispering. I cut it up on the my extension.
She's the one that did it, not me. I just tried to cover it up for her. If I did it, then how do you live with someone that did it for 9 months? You know what I'm saying? We slept in a bed. I didn't do it. What was your hand? What was that condition? No, it was good.
Did that help any? Because he say he ain't do it. Rebecca did it. I'm looking to see if I can find it by itself, but I don't see it.
How long should it be wrong? She was about 4 days before she ended up going back to work. She tried to clean it up, you know, she moved for a while. She should do it with baseball bat from what I can tell. Yeah, look at me from home. So they want to do the best surgery from 6 and 5, and I done for years. And I understand that. This girl was hit, and she lived for several days. So you just don't work one day. You know, I'm not saying work one day. I'm just saying I came home from work and she was dead. But I'm going to she was in the bedroom where she was, 2 days. Was there one room? 2? She was not, but broken. My accident when I was upstairs, I didn't touch it. All the people in the bedroom, so ready, or whatever, yeah. I was just trying to doctor it back. A little bit trouble. I know you were trying, but I didn't do it. I want to think you did it. I don't think you did it.
Damn, that crack diet don't be playing. You know what I'm saying? Look how small it is. So, yeah, I tried to look on YouTube to see if they maybe had the interrogation film or tape separate, but they don't. Um, so we don't have to just kind of muscle through this, you know. Sorry about that, you guys, but it's they recording.
very spoke up. But I think you panicked and you did something that you needed to do to try to protect you and your girlfriend. I understand. I didn't have to. I came home and she flipped out on me. She was not normal. She was bipolar, schizophrenia, all that, you know, and she flipped out. We've been arguing for the last couple of weeks. Why don't you ever better? There's an officer came by today asking me about a body in the refrigerator, so I took her out and put her under the bed. I didn't know what to do with her. I didn't know. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I tried to cover it up. That's all I tried to do. So if she was in the bedroom for 4 days, she was still alive. Did you go for her income? You know, tied up. And when she was tied up, yes, because I wanted to get out because of everything that happened. I was like,
Could you tell us what he said just now?
He said, yes, she was tied up because I didn't want her to get away because of everything that had happened.
you know,
Let him interpret more often.
but my girl got mad again and just took it out on her. She, the whole thing was just attitudes, and that's all it was. It sounded all right. That's all it was. It didn't end up that way. It was emotional.
He say all they supposed to been doing was having a threesome. That's it. And then he supposed to send her on the way, but that didn't happen.
She got emotional. She choked her. So, I mean, she told me she choked her. Yes, I was there. Yes, I covered it up. And as far as I went, I had to hide it for my protection and my girl. Where did it from? Oh, God, I did not do it. Okay, I'm telling you, this was a choked her. And I did not. Listen, I really did. I did not. I know you choked her, okay? And I know why you choked her. I'm not worried about that. I know you were scared. Okay? I know you were scared. Maybe you were scared of your girlfriend. Okay, she heard something maybe that you didn't know you were. I know you were. But I know you choked the girl. It takes strength to do that. Yes, and she's got a right here. And that made her strength. And was like, oh, you got me on the day. I got to lose that. Look at me with your strength. I don't know. You got that. I mean, no, it's not. I came home to her being dead. I'm telling you, officer, I came home to her being dead. I did not touch her.
He say when he say he came home to her being dead. So far he admitted to bringing her home, admitted they supposed to have a threesome, admitted to helping Rebecca tie her up and stuff. But he say that when he came out the shower, Rebecca had already hit the woman over the head with the bat. And now he say when he came home from work that she was already dead. He definitely say all I did was help cover it up. That's all I did was help cover it up. That's as far as I go in this. Just in case y'all need an interpretation.
I did not. I did not do it. I guess I did. I screwed up. I went down through it. I put it in the freezer. I didn't know what to do. What you tired of? I mean, just strange. It was kind of like, strange. I don't know. I was just sitting there in the house. I don't know. Shooting. I don't know. Chain. You didn't go chain. Maybe I don't have it on the screen.
He say Rebecca had on the chain.
she's like, I gotta go take a shower. So I was like, okay, go take a shower. She came back downstairs. I went upstairs to take a piss and, kind of get ready. I was just screaming. I came downstairs. She's back there. I don't. You saw her. Yes, one time I was coming downstairs. And I was like, maybe.
Hey, chill out.
What did she want? I don't know. When I came downstairs, I seen the back thing, and when she fell, and I was it. It was so quick. All the blood was it was a little bit. She cleaned it up. So we got her in the bedroom, I don't know what she tried to. The bed, my bed. Was she on the floor? Yes, she had it on the floor, yes. Fantasies like that too. I don't know, she told me it was part of a fantasy. I really had to help me do that as a fantasy. For 4 days, she was tied up to the bed on the floor. I guess. We fed her, we gave her water, we did start her. I want you to don't take all the milk, and forget to scream. So she got to scream.
I don't know what the hell they saying. Shit.
She didn't scream, she didn't do nothing else, because I was nice to her. I was like, please, I don't know what happened, my old lady, what she did, but I'll take care of you. She went over her, all those things, she blew, she got a broken arm. She had 2 kids. I had her down, I cleaned her up. She tried to, and she's not screaming, she don't want to try to get away, she don't think to do anything else to her, she just would hate herself and sit there. What's like your mom?
Oh, hell no. All I hear is mum, 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 mum. I can't understand nothing they sing.
My mom, I told me why there was no screaming, because my mom was right next door. So I seen her when she hit her with the baseball bat. I'm telling you. You gotta go look at the opposite, but I'm telling you, I did not do this. I mean, what kind of love we lived with a man for 9 months? Well, now, this is what I did with that, but the problem was just kinky sex. And you know, the real sex, and she wanted to get in trouble with that, but I got so happy. Yeah, it does. And we're not so bad, we had a weird sex life. But what you girlfriend married him? Well, that is
I know one thing. They trying to make it seem like hey, Lady Steph, they trying to make it. I tried to cut on the closed caption option. I just cut it on, but guess what? The closed caption can't understand shit they saying. You see how I say music down there? It's because I cut it on. Hey, Joy, but I know one thing that I'm hearing. The cop keep playing with him and trying to give him an excuse saying like he was scared of Rebecca. Right? So the cop keeps saying, well, things like this happen. And then you were scared of your girlfriend. You didn't know what she was going to do. Right? Well, let me start my mess because I can't hear nothing. I know we came so far up in here. This sucks. I'm going to cut the bass thing off a little bit. Well, that's better. That's a little bit better without the other thing. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just what I'm trying to tell you. You know what my girl can be doing? I don't know what it is, but I have children. I need something.
And they use the shoeless. I was doing, use something about bad water, but the shoeless. I think something choked her. So I came home from work, she was dead.
Yeah, it's a little bit clearer.
And she kind of got off on it. I was like, you're kind of demented.
Just say hey, Joy.
Back in December. Back in December, she got in the freezer since then, 8 months. You know what I'm saying? She sat and saying that with me, she knew everything. I said, no matter. She said, what the life. So she was hurt. And she lived for 4 days. She took her to church on Friday. Yes. And she came in and I said, we have a really flat life. I never thought that she would hurt somebody, you know. And we have to get in there and go up and go.
I know he said he never thought she would hurt anyone like that. I heard him say that.
They got off to her. She got off on it.
He said she got off on it.
We know that's so true. And it was all about that was it. And then by the time I came home, the 4th night, she was done.
Not yet, Joy.
And when I came in, I brought her home. She came in the car with me and brought her home. He thought it was home. We had, you know, got to see me in the shower. I let her take a shower. That's it. So she brought this on the room for a long time. The young people, who sometimes in trouble and ladies don't know help themselves. You sit down and talk to a woman, tell you a story, and they won't trust it.
Yeah.
And they justify things. I'm saying that we kidnap somebody from home with a long. Yes. One time somebody gets mad, and we're going to beat on the baseball bat, and we was back for 4 days.
Yes.
And I was scared.
Y'all, we just gonna have to take a vote because we can't hear shit. Let me see if it get better. Damn, he all up in his face. This is a good interrogation. God damn it. And we can't hear none of it. Oh my God.
Maybe they could take you to a more comfortable place.
Y'all. Hey, Lou. This looked like it was a good ass interrogation. He got to sitting all up in his face, doing this, doing that, you know, confronting them. And we can't hear anything. Nothing. And the interrogation itself is not on YouTube just by itself. Okay, let's get right here. So we just have to call that a wash because we literally can't hear. And even with me sitting right here trying to, I can't hear. Let me see what he fussing about, child. This look like they just doing a hearing motion. Sorry, y'all. Damn, what the hell is he eating in jail? Let me go see if my air off or something. It's hot as hell up in here. I'll be right back. Reese, did you cut the air off? You know, I'm hot. You hot?
Thank you. Have a seat. Record reflect our jurors are back from lunch. Hope you all had a pleasant lunch. And now we'll do cross-examination. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. Just briefly, we watched the video, so I'm not gonna go through it and rehash it. But you would agree that at that moment you were pretty confident that you had your guy on this, right? I mean, you were pretty confident Sean was guilty, right?
Very much so.
Okay. And then throughout the interview, he maintained that he told you some things for sure, but he maintained that he didn't kill the girl and that he didn't physically harm the girl, correct?
I can't say that. I think he tried to maintain that he didn't kill her, but I don't think he maintained that he didn't physically harm her, because he did put the chain around her neck and he did tie her up, and it was strings from his house. So
Right.
I can't say that he did not harm her.
Okay. But what I'm saying, I guess, is in his response to your questions, he kept saying, I didn't do it and I was scared and I didn't know what to do. Right. I mean, that was kind of his response to most of your questions.
He responded that way to many of the questions.
Hey, Tracy, good evening.
That's it, Judge. I think that's
Welcome
all.
back to the day jury box. We had a failed interrogation.
Direct.
We couldn't hear nothing.
Okay, sir.
Thank you
Sit
for
down.
that.
Please send it form free to go.
Thank you, sir. Am I excused?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Who's your next witness?
State rest, Your Honor.
All right.
Uh-oh.
So let's talk about what happened.
All right, the state rest. So if anybody's defense side, and what I'm going to do is, I'm going to make sure that the next case, I'm going to make sure the next trial, I'm going to have to just peruse it, you know what I'm saying, and make sure that, we can see stuff. If they showing it, make sure we can hear everything. That way we can have a smooth ride. Live and learn, live and learn, live and learn. I had to go cut the heater off. I'm sweating. So the state rest, I did not see the defense and what defense they put on. So none of this I saw.
Happens next. The state's rested. Now it's the opportunity for the defense to put on your proof if they want to. They don't have to put on your proof. So that's the way that operates. It's not bad news. Maybe they could take you to a more comfortable place, because I think it's hot in that room. But I've got about 15, 20 minutes of stuff I have to do with lawyers after the plaintiff rests and before the defendant makes a decision about any kind of offense. So when one of the deputies comes walking through the door, I'm going to ask y'all to go back somewhere nice for about 20 minutes, maybe 25. Oh, there you are. Sorry to see back there.
The
I'll bring you
defense,
back in
their
here
case
about
wasn't
25
really
minutes. But I
nothing.
have to do that.
So we're about to end this
legally
case,
to go
huh?
through the proper steps I have to go through. Okay, everybody, so nobody's mad at me for bringing you in for a few minutes. Okay, that's great. Everybody rise, please.
I really like the judge. And you guys, y'all remember that black female prosecutor that we saw on Quentin Nixon trial? Baby, I found another trial where she the prosecutor. I say this might be interesting, right? So they finna do some hardcore lawyering. How many more days in here? We might be finishing this trial this week. You might just be finishing this trial this week. Let me see. Oh yeah. Cause this is day 4. By day 5, well, they got a day 5. And day 6 was the verdict watch. So we'll be finishing soon. Uh-oh.
Counts or the rape counts.
Let me rewind.
I think there's probably enough you.
Okay, here we go. So let's see. I'm saying the cross of the last detective. Oh, okay. And then Miss Steph say, yeah, and okay. So it's like one is this day right here. This is half of day 4. And then it's day 5. And then they go out for the deliberations. So that's cool. We should be finishing up this trial this week here. Tomorrow we'll go 3 hours. They had a trial started yesterday
Thank you. Have a
in
seat.
Mississippi.
American
But it's
Flint and our
Mississippi
jurors are
Public
back from
Prison.
lunch. Hope you all had a pleasant lunch. And
Thank
now we'll do
God.
cross-examination.
Accused of unaliving a transgender girlfriend,
sir.
trying to hide
Yeah.
their relationship. They in day two of that
Just
trial
briefly,
right
we
now.
watched the video, so I'm not gonna go through it and rehash it. But you would agree that at that moment you were pretty confident that you had your guy on this, right? I mean, you were pretty confident
much so.
Sean was guilty, right?
Very much so.
Okay.
You say very much.
And then and throughout the interview, he maintained that he told you some things for sure, but he maintained that he didn't kill the girl and that he didn't physically harm the girl, correct?
I can't say that. I think he tried to maintain that he didn't kill her, but I don't think he maintained that he didn't physically harm her, because he did put the chain around her neck and he did tie her up, and it was strings from his house. So
Right.
I can't say that he did not harm her.
Okay. But what I'm saying, I guess, is in his response to your questions, he kept saying, I didn't do it and I was scared and I didn't know what to do. Right. I mean, that was kind of his response to most of your questions.
He responded that way to many of the questions.
Okay. That's it, Judge. I think that's all.
And that's what you was talking about right there,
I'm sure
Winter.
you sit down. I'm free to go.
Thank you, sir. Am I excused?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Damn, did I rewind it back
Who's
that
your
far?
next witness?
State rest, Your Honor.
Oh my God.
So let's talk about.
Testified that the freezer was there before Jennifer Paxton got there.
That's not. an
That's
accurate
okay.
statement.
That
That's
is-
okay. That's okay.
Okay.
His motion. Go ahead.
She testified. In my notes, she testified that the freezer was there before they got there, was there first. So if the freezer was there first and it was delivered December 28th and Sean was at work, then he couldn't have possibly been home until the morning of 29th, which would have been the day that possibly he came home with Jennifer Paxton. But that's as close as they get to establishing that it was in December at all. Because the testimony about hearing noises, which included a lot of details that weren't in her original statement, but I understand that that's not arguable at this point. But her testimony was that the reason why she heard those noises, like a fight moving from room to room, was because her Christmas tree was up. And her testimony was that she kept her Christmas tree up until mid-January to the end of January. So as far as I can tell, their timeline is actually December 29th to mid-January to end of January is when this possibly happened. And if it happened, and they have not proven beyond a reasonable doubt, or I don't believe that any reasonable jury could take that they've proven beyond a reasonable doubt that it took place before December 31st. And so from that perspective, my argument is that that has to be reasonable doubt because it's outside of the range of dates that they chose. And they could have amended the indictment, but they didn't. And so there's just not proof beyond a reasonable doubt of when this took place. It could have taken place anytime during that period. And it's still only based on a freezer delivery, which is, it's not clear whether it was there before, how long it was there, or if it was there after. It's just not clear.
They can't check the rental records. That don't make sense.
And then the only other thing that ties to the timeline, like I said, is the neighbor, and her testimony is sketchy at best. I mean, as far as her timeline, it's just based on the tree being up. So that gives us a 2-week to 4-week span of time. And that's after Christmas. That's after New Year's. The other testimony is from the person that worked with Sean, who said he would have been working every single night that week. So for him to be able to accomplish this, or any of these acts, or for any of these acts to even take place during that time period, I think the state would have to show more to prove to a reasonable juror beyond a reasonable doubt that they've proven those acts happened in the space of time that they've alleged, or that Sean Finnegan is responsible for those acts outside of the ones that he admitted to, which I understand could be reasonably inferred maybe on the kidnapping or whatever, but on the premeditated first-degree murder, I don't think they get there at all. And on the others, I'll stick with my argument. I don't think it gets there.
All right. Thanks, sir. For the state.
Yes, Your Honor, we believe that the evidence taken in the light most favorable to the state, that each of these counts is clearly supported by the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. So certainly enough to give it to the jury for them to make a decision as to the dates
I don't
that are
think it'd be
alleged in
unreasonable.
each count of the
I
indictment,
think.
as long as there is proof that it was within that time frame, and there is, then that is sufficient to give it to the jury. They don't have to find there were acts of this going on every single day during that time period, but just that these events happened sometime before the finding of the indictment and within this time period. We have Ms. Dishman saying that the freezer was delivered before Ms. Paxton was dead. We have the dates that the freezer was delivered. We have Ms. Norwood Coons saying that these events happened when she had her Christmas tree up, which is something that they can infer Christmas time with in conjunction with the other facts. And finally, Mr. Finnegan says in his interview, this all happened in December. And so certainly that is sufficient for us to make those arguments to the jury that this is proved beyond a reasonable doubt that these events happened within the time frame that is alleged by the state. And of course, we believe that as to the tampering and abuse of corpse counts and conspiracy counts, that the evidence is sufficient.
Absolutely, Tracy. That's exactly what they're trying to do. That's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to take
All right,
murder
I'm
off
going to
the
deny
table.
your motion concerning looking at the state's case in its best light. I'm going to deny the
Maybe
motion.
accessory or mass
A couple of things, if y'all are ready to do it. I've given you the document for the fine issue.
Oh, yeah,
and
they
I've given
definitely
you the
trying to get it
document
off
for
the
the
table.
Mormon hearing.
which is a good help for everybody to quit.
This had a 3-hole punch. Are you okay with us just filling in
I-
blank on this?
I had extras.
Is that okay for us just to submit that?
It is.
Okay, we weren't sure if you wanted to. So I'll go ahead and scribble that out.
Okay.
And we've, I've already done the waiver.
Okay.
For the fines.
And this is the waiver for the fines.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we've discussed.
And I'll make that an exhibit, and that will not go back with the jury. If you mark it as.
I don't be understanding why they be having fines for murderers when they finna be in prison for the next 100 years, but I guess. In other news, I found a good parole thing I want us to do. Look at a couple of good ones.
Very much.
I've been looking through those for the daytime. I'm gonna skip past all this. Let's see if they're gonna get to the what it's called, the defense side. Oh yeah. Oh, I finally figured out what court case I was thinking about last night.
So,
Atlanta
this is
police
Supreme Court.
officer trial, and he had sexually assaulted
So,
and unalived that Hispanic girl, that young black cop from Atlanta. I don't know if a lot of y'all saw that, but that was a good trial. We might have to watch that one. Is this closing arguments? Let me see.
So, bless the Supreme Court. All right, can I bring our jury in? Everybody ready?
All right,
Okay,
y'all.
everybody rise, please.
This trial kind of petered out real fast.
Thank you. Have a seat, please. And closing argument by the state of Tennessee.
Closing arguments. Pause. Pause. All right, y'all. So we already got to the closing argument. We're gonna listen to the closing argument, and when they go out to deliberate, that's when I'm gonna open up the little thing, chat box, the jury thing. We're gonna talk about it, and then we're gonna put up our poll. And I did not know we was gonna finish this tonight. So let's listen to the the closing arguments, and then let us vote and deliberate, and then let's go ahead and finish it off tonight. Let's go.
Of every charge in this indictment, And I told you at the beginning of this process, when he was not guilty, that I'd be saying something opposite when I got back up here. And here we are. The state's now met its burden of proof. We've called our witnesses. We've entered the items that are necessary in the evidence to give you everything you need to convict this man. He's been stripped. And now you can see him for who he is. And the way you are going to do that is by being stone cold observers of the facts and the law in this case, like your oath requires you to do. And to do that, it's all common sense. And when you think about what this case is about and what the common sense, when you look at it, you take the approach of looking at it and the bigger picture of what was actually going on here. And what was going on here? An objective look at the facts, the bigger picture of what happened here. This guy was caught red-handed. Red-handed. You probably don't think about that phrase, but it comes from like 15th century. Red-handed meant that the person's hand actually was full of blood. And it was red because they just committed the homicide. He was caught red-handed with a woman's body that this had been done to. This woman had been defiled, beaten, stabbed, raped, and choked. And he slept 8 feet from her for 8 months. And you think about common sense and thinking about it objectively. That's what you have here. Nothing, when you use common sense and disintegrate it down to its very core, nothing screams more than what this really is. This woman in his freezer was his trophy. That's what she was. That's why they kept her as a trophy and remembrance of what they did. And think about how you observed her body when she was discovered stripped of her breasts exposed, her breast cut, her nose cut off, defiled. Why? Why else would her shroud be opened if he wasn't doing exactly what Rebecca Dishman told you he was doing? He's going in there and masturbating on a regular basis to Jennifer Paxton as she was in the fetal position, frozen solid, 8 feet from where he slept. And I would ask you to use that common sense.
Yeah, y'all remember that was horrific when Rebecca was testifying. She said after they had unalived her and she was in the freezer, that she came out the shower one day and caught him standing in front of the open freezer, masturbating, and when he to the body, and that when she walked in, he held out his hand to her, and in his hand was her nose.
In coming in and rendering a verdict in this case. And I want to talk to you a little bit about what the judge's instructions will be. And it'll be about the state's proof and the witnesses that we called, and you're going to be instructed about dealing with people and how you listen to witnesses and take the proof in. But it's essentially the same way you do in real life. I mean, it's just how you interpret people that you meet. You think about their character and the motive to lie to you and things like that. And you heard from a lot of witnesses in this case. And I want to review those with you and talk about the takeaways that you get from the people in this case and why they're important to your verdict in the case. And I guess the first one I'll talk about, obviously, is 911, Matt Johnston. The state's first witness was the 911 recording. You heard Colt Pico calling to the police because the defendant had come in on 2 wheels, according to Colt, on 2 wheels. Where's my woman? Going to fight him, going to kill him, right? And what's the takeaway from that? Colt Pico came in here and you observed him, you saw him. Colt Pico doesn't want nothing to do with anybody. He just wants to go home and be ticked off at people or something. You could tell his persona, the kind of person he is.
Wait a minute, sir. Don't give Colt Pico too much. Don't give Mahogany Husband too much. Okay? How he gonna sit here and say the witness he called just want to go home and be ticked off at people? What the hell? The man just want to mind his own business. Ciao.
Yes, you've met Colt Picos before in your life, and you've met the couple dynamic between Colt Pico and Mahogany Pico, and we'll talk a little more about that. Mahogany, the social butterfly, Colt, going along for the ride, right? But Colt Pico is not the person that's going to stick his neck out on the line. I'm from Chicago. I stick to my business. I don't want to get involved in this. But he also understood that something was going on. And when we started this trial, one of the questions was, would you understand if my client didn't testify? And I'm not speaking at all about his right to not testify. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, he said to you, what are the reasons why somebody wouldn't want to testify? They wouldn't want to testify, and the answers were, I don't like public speaking, I might get nervous, all of the things that would accompany going on the stand, and the reasons why a person wouldn't want to take the stand. Well, the state had to do that in every single witness we put on. Every single one. Colt Pico, Mahogany Pico. Did they want to be here? Would they be afraid of public speaking? Would they be afraid of cross-examination? Of course. So that same concept applies to every witness in the burden of proof. And I say that because I want you to focus on something that's not just the words that came through the witnesses. I want you to think about the actions as a result of those words, meaning you have Colt Pico and Mahogany Pico. And you've met them and you kind of got a flavor for them, but it was isolated in the terms of the testimony in a courtroom. But you can look and think about your common experience and your common sense and judge it objectively about their actions and what they did out in August of 2020 with regard to their intervention in this man's life. And I want you to think about this. Colt and Mahogany Pico are the two people that you heard from through the entire trial who know him the best and who know Rebecca Dishman the best, his co-defendant. Mahogany Pico spent many, many times over there smoking weed, enjoying conversation, knowing the people, interacting with the people. She knew Rebecca. She knew the defendant, Mr. Finnegan. And think about this action that they took and how
That's true. It's how like
this
Mahogany
amplifies the conclusion you can draw common sense wise. Colt and Mahogany Pico, knowing him, friends with him first, Rebecca comes along, that relationship develops, and think about the time span from the beginning of the relationship until the moment of August 5th of 2020. Think about the span of how things changed over that time to the point where Mahogany Pico felt that Rebecca Dishman's life was in danger, so much so that she was going to go to a neighbor's house, load their clothes in garbage bags, and help them get out of Dodge. Think about that. The testimony you heard from the stand from both Mahogany and Colt, think about that as being a neighbor and going over and intervening into a domestic situation. What was Colt and Mahogany? What do they know? You heard the words on the stand, but the actions are one of drastic measure. And what can you conclude from that? That this guy was violent, that they knew that something's going to go down and Rebecca's going to get hurt. Colt Pico and Mahogany Pico gave that to you. In their actions, they knew that he was the one that was the cause of danger there, not Rebecca. They were packing her up under cover of darkness, so to speak. They waited until he went to work. And so think about those actions and the dynamic in this relationship between this man and Rebecca Dishman. And you see that Colt and Mahogany highlight and illuminate for you exactly what was going on there, including the words that were on the stand. Their actions tell you everything. Next, we heard from Gail and Brittany Payne, and I guess the irony of their last name, Payne, you could feel it from them, right? You could sense the sense of loss, but also that Jennifer was lost. She was lost, and then she went missing, right? But you could tell from them that always someday they hoped she'd come home. They didn't hope like this, right? And I tell you that because they knew her lifestyle was leading her to hopefully not the potential of this, which it did, but they always hoped she'd come home. But they provided you with the information that you need about the lifestyle that Jennifer was leading. And I can say this, and I don't mean to be crass, but a homeless, addicted prostitute's probably the easiest person to kill on the planet. Probably the easiest human being to kill, homeless, addicted prostitute. Think about it. I'm challenging you to think about that. Who else would be easier to kill than that?
No lies told.
Why, they're going to be doing things risky to feed their addiction. They're going to have a special hunger. It's not just like I need food and water, right?
Exactly. They got more motivators.
And if they're a prostitute, if they're homeless, nobody's going to miss them, right? Because they're homeless. They don't live anywhere where people are coming and expecting them going. And add to that, they're a prostitute. And what does a prostitute do? They have to get in vehicles and go dark places where the police aren't, and they have to expose themselves and take their clothes off and be the most vulnerable human being on the planet. And I say all that to you, as I said, not to be crass and not to be dismissive of it, but to tell you why Jennifer was his perfect victim. She's the easiest person he could find to kill because of who she was. But she was still loved. Her addiction got her and cost her life. So the point for those witnesses were how easy it was for Sean Finnegan to victimize Jennifer Paxton. And Phyllis Tonkin was next. KPD officer who gave you the time frame, the last person, the last known contact, last time that Jennifer was alive. And well, she was twirling in the streets near the Pine House. You recall that testimony? Police had to be called. But it gives you the time frame. December 23rd was the last time she was seen alive. And maybe there's some solace that the family of Jennifer won't remember this, that they'll remember she was twirling so much in the street, the cops had to be called. That might be some solace. I don't know.
That is not a good memory, sir.
Maybe they'll remember that. But that gave you the solid date of the last time we've had contact, known living contact with
Really?
law enforcement or people other than the people who killed her. And then you heard from Rebecca Dishman. Well, life in prison at 22 years old. And I say to you, she got what she deserved. She got what she deserved. and you got a chance to meet her and see her affect and get a sense and a feel for who she is.
Yes, a snack. So after we hear, I think what we're gonna do is that's the coroner. Remember, I had said after the interrogation we go back to the coroner. So I think after he's talked, we'll go back to the coroner, and then cause we thought that the interrogation was gonna work, and then go back to the other closing. Yeah, cause remember I told y'all with the mannequin, I have been telling y'all about that.
Not only through her, but through other witnesses on the way she behaves, the way she reacts, and how her processor, her ability to process things like a normal person is lacking. She got memory, right? She can use the words gratification, she can use the words defecation, and she uses them appropriately, but her processing and her problem solving is where Rebecca Dishman got lost in life. But the thing is that I hope that you've come from her testimony and from witnesses, the other witnesses that you are able to conclude is that Rebecca Dishman's abilities are simple, and they don't allow her to lie. They don't allow her to lie. She says things the way she doesn't get things right.
She is a liar
because she doesn't process things. She thought COVID was the summer of 2019.
Okay, I'm sorry, y'all, but how he gonna keep saying that shit when Rebecca was lying about sneaking on the other girl's phone? She was lying about trying to text message her ex-boyfriends. She was lying. She's a liar. Stop trying to make it seem like she's so retarded that she can't lie. Oh my God, I'm not gonna say that now.
For example,
I hate that.
She won't lie about things.
I'll overrule. Go ahead.
You looked at her person and you consider her for what she is. You think about the questions that were asked of her on cross-examination. You're a Satanist, aren't you? Yes, and I'm a Wiccan too. I'm a Wiccan too. She offered that up. Yes, my father was a minister, and I dabbled in things in rebellion. She could have lied about that, right? Why would somebody admit that? And why would they want to ask that? Oh, Jennifer's arm, her tattoo on her arm was cut off. The cross was cut off on her tattoo. Oh, it must be a Satanist then. Must have cut the cross off of her shoulder, when in fact Dr. Malusinik tells you, nah, that's freezer burn right there on the shoulder, or her left shoulder was stuck to the freezer, and he cut her out to get her out to hide her under the bed. But Rebecca Dishman's a Satanist. She admitted it because she can't lie about it. Miss Dishman, you're a cutter, aren't you? Yes, I'm a cutter. I used it as a coping mechanism when I was a teenager. Implying the cuts, the stab wounds, the lacerations, everything that was done to Jennifer Paxton must have come from the cutter. But the only cutter that we know of is actually sitting right here, who carved an S in her behind and took a picture and left it on his camera. In evidence. He's the only confirmed cutter you have. And she did cut. And she admitted it. She didn't lie.
Now the S in the behind. Hold on. Okay, well he say he the one who carved the S in her behind and left it on a picture. He talking about on Rebecca butt. Rebecca got he carved his initials in Rebecca ass. Okay.
As we mentioned about Colt and Mahogany, they came next after Rebecca.
Talk about
talked about the perceived danger that both Colt and Mahogany, they must have known based on their actions. And that's huge to you as a jury when you think about common sense and think about how this developed, and you think about what the true nature of the relationship between him and Rebecca was. That two neighbors, one who doesn't want to get his nose involved in anything for anybody, he wants to go back to the house, and the other intervene. Take that drastic effort. Think about the effort that you would have to do that for a neighbor. What position would they be in that you would feel that you would have to do that? Borrow somebody's car and run out with garbage bags while grandma's yelling out the window and calling him up.
I don't know about
And
that.
here he comes from the pint house.
Mama Bates is what we call her.
Nobody knew the defendant and Rebecca better than Mahogany. Special bond with Finnegan himself because they enjoyed smoking weed together.
You already said that part.
Had a lot of laughs, I'm sure. But Mahogany knew based on her actions. And now you know based on her actions about their relationship and who really was the violent one and who really was in danger. The conclusion that you would draw, a real, clear, present, current danger for Rebecca Dishman, meaning this guy was her danger. Headed to get an order of protection to keep him away from her and put her in a women's shelter up in Cobb County or wherever they were going. As far away from here to get Rebecca safe. After the Picos, we heard from Kelsey Coons, the next door neighbor, immediate next door neighbor, and by golly, she got attacked, didn't she? Woo! Probably because she brought two things to you that would damage the defendant. Rebecca actually going and going to her and asking her for relief in the sense that and you think about Kelsey, you're a neighbor, and somebody comes up to you, your neighbor that you barely know, you've talked to a few times, you see him, hey, how you doing? What are you doing? Hey, and Kelsey Coons says, she comes over and she says, I think he's going to kill me. I need help. And remember we talked about earlier how I said that Rebecca Dishman is somebody who's she's got the memory like a computer. She's got the hard drive maybe like a computer, but her processor's like a 280, like a ancient processor. She doesn't process things right and doesn't problem solve right. Rebecca Dishman actually thought, okay, if I'm
the judge taking me out,
man, he's going to kill me. I can actually just ask a neighbor to borrow her phone to set up a fake Facebook profile to send message to my friends to come pick me up. That was her problem-solving solution. That's how her processor works. Okay, I got it. I'm in a dangerous situation. I need to get out. What can I do? You walk down to the Dollar General and call 911. That does not compute to Rebecca Dishman. She does not see it that way. Maybe because of her experience, when you heard from her about from house to house, they kicked me out, they kicked me out, they kicked me out. And think about also how you know they got together in the first place was she reached out to him on Facebook and he came right over and picked her up. Problem solved in her mind. And when you think about that problem solving method that Rebecca has, it probably can give you a little more insight, common sense wise, to her mind and what she was thinking when Jennifer Paxton was chained to her bed and he's off to work. This is a problem, but how am I going to get out of it? And I'm enjoying it. That's why you're going to prison for life. And you also could probably expect Kelsey Coons' reaction to that, obviously, with a dysfunctional processing of, okay, you're wanting my phone to create a fake Facebook profile for the purpose of getting somebody to come pick you up because you think your boyfriend's going to kill you. That's usually what 911's for, but sure, honey, here you go. Go ahead. She thought she was exaggerating, right? And that's a normal reaction. A person of normal sensibilities would react that way, and that's why Kelsey reacted that way. But it also gives you insight to why Rebecca Dishman didn't free Jennifer Paxton. Because her processing and her way of thinking about things ain't right. She thinks that she could resolve and get herself out of the situation in the manner that she approached Kelsey Coons with. Kelsey Coons, being a right-minded person, was like, okay, take my phone, okay, delete. When she got her phone back. Little regret there for Kelsey Coons. And the second issue that Kelsey took with us or brought to you was a time frame on when it happened. And boy, did she get beat up on and cross on that. The time frame, and you didn't say blah, 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 and you didn't say blah, 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 and you didn't say this. You didn't give a detail. Well, nobody asked me that detail. When then you find out once you get his statement, and we apologize for the garbly nature of it, you're going to actually have it back there. But when you get his statement, you find out that he says that, yes, that all occurred, but it was Rebecca that did it. Right? So he even admits it's in the living room. The battle is in the living room. He switches places with Rebecca. He says that Rebecca's the one swinging and wielding the bat, the athletic prowess that I'm sure you probably thought of when you looked at her and thought, wow, she's probably pretty nimble. Did you think that at all? I think not. You probably looked at her and saw frumpy, lumpy, weak.
Damn, why you call her frumpy and lumpy?
I don't like to be offensive like that, but that's it.
Frumpy and lumpy, huh?
When she took the stand, you observed her person, her condition, and conditioning. But she offered, Kelsey Coons gave you that time frame, showed you how it went down, heard everything next door, heard it go upstairs, and then for a week, seems like a week, there's banging, the bed banging on the wall up there. I think they're having rough sex up there. When in reality, it's Jennifer, beaten and bruised. But hopefully, she's got enough dope in her that would kill Dr. Malusinic. So hopefully she's comforted a little bit by the fact that he's feeding her up with his mother's morphine.
That's a hell of a description, ain't it?
And then we heard from the Oak Ridge Police. We started with Robert Mansfield, Anderson County Sheriff's Office, Roy Hines, Brian Yook, and Marvell Moore. Oak Ridge Police, Anderson County Police, and these witnesses provided you a timeline for when they first picked up Rebecca here at the Jolly building, or at the
You're being very redundant.
possibly at this building.
Very.
I don't remember exactly where he said, but nonetheless, that started the wheels turning, getting her into Oak Ridge. Roy Hines interviewing her, followed by Yook going out for observation, and Marvell Moore storming with a SWAT team and the battering ram and the SWAT truck and the officers and everybody convening to go into that house and get Jennifer out. That police work began and developed, and you got an inside look at that to see how that happened as a jury. And when you think about that testimony, I hope you can see with your own eyes how things happened for them as police officers. And more specifically, thinking about this fact. The Oak Ridge Police Department had a report that a person had a body in a freezer. A patrol officer responded and left. Inquired of the defendant, and the defendant lied. Confirmation, liar, right? You heard it on tape. If at that moment, the Oak Ridge Police Department hadn't taken it serious enough to assemble the battery of men and women who charged that house, where would we be? And why? Why do you think they assembled that battalion of people to go over there and go into this house? And I want you to put thought into this and think about, it starts with Robert Mansfield. It starts with him and his conversation with Rebecca Dishman. And then Roy Hines with his conversation with Rebecca Dishman. And Marvell Moore, his conversation with Rebecca Dishman. And none of them went, this one's going to Ridgebrook. We're going to take her to the mental ward over there at Methodist Medical. Right? None of them did that. So I want you to think about their actions based on the words and the perceptions and everything that they perceived when they sat from me to you, from Rebecca Dishman, from us. They sat from her and they heard from her. And did they take it serious? Oh, yeah, they did. Because you heard Mike Ure, that seemed crazy. A frozen body in a freezer. Be easy to dismiss, right? But they didn't. And that's a testimony to Rebecca Dishman's believability and openness and candor in her disclosures to them. You think about it, if for some reason Rebecca Dishman had somehow his ability to hide secret Jennifer under the bed, toss her under the bed, under sheets and whatnot, if that had worked, and where she'd end up, Solway Bridge, dumped over the Solway Bridge, or Raccoon Valley at the waste management facility somewhere, right? And nothing on her body except an unknown male profile. Hate to be that unknown male profile. But the Oak Ridge Police didn't. They took it seriously because of Rebecca Dishman's disclosure. And just like Colton Mahogany Pico, who took it seriously, they put their trust and faith in what she said. They took it to a judge and they found what they needed to find. And they brought Jennifer home. Larry Dowdell, the responding KPD officer, he thinks he's breaking up a neighborhood dispute. You heard from him. The first thing that you can conclude common sense wise when you think about Larry Dowdell is what.
I don't know if y'all noticed this or not, but he been on that same page of notes that he reading them notes from. And at this moment in time, he ad-libbing. I wonder if they think if they talk longer, it's better.
The information you got from Mahogany that he's a control freak, that he is in control of everything, is the fact that when Larry Dowdell shows up, by golly, there's Sean Finnegan. He raced in from the Pint House. He's back here in Oak Ridge from Merchants Road. cussing out the neighbor, threatening to fight, gonna kill him, says Colt. And there are the police. By golly, he's going to head around and he's going to meet them. He's going to be in control of this situation because he's got a body up in his freezer. And he meets with the Oak Ridge police, and you heard that interaction. And Sarah Keith started this trial with, "That's bullshit." His words.
Wait a minute, what?
Is there a body in your freezer? Nah, that's bullshit. Liar.
He going in
Liar.
circles.
You have a confirmed liar in your courtroom. You can prove it. You know it. You heard him on tape say that he didn't have a body in his freezer.
Look at the
And
judge.
you know it was.
Hold on.
Confirmed.
Hold
Check.
on. Why is that pausing? Oh Lord.
I want you to think about this too, that if as soon as Larry Dowdell leaves, by golly, Mr. Control gets right into control mode, doesn't he?
Yeah,
He gets
they're
right back into the apartment, and he goes to that freezer, and he cuts
I love
around
Judge
because
Ash.
he knows
I really do.
that the police may be coming back. And what's his plan at this point? His plan is, if they come back,
Right, stuff they do.
I'm going to need to not have anything in that refrigerator. So he goes so far as to disassemble his bed, and you'll see the photos of it that has to be lifted up. There's a metal mattress underneath. Takes her body out, wraps it in the sheets that you've got in evidence, throws it under the bed, goes and gets the racks for the refrigerator. Burritos and pizzas. Assembles the racks in the freezer. Oh, we need the burritos and pizza. Goes downstairs. Isn't this going to look odd that I got a freezer upstairs and the burritos and I got nothing to cook them up here? Whatever. Pizzas and burritos. Shuts it up. All right, let's wait for the cops. I'll show him this empty freezer. He's hoping they're going to come back so he can deceive them. So you've got a known liar, and now you know you've got a known deceiver. Two things you've got on him now. So if Larry Dowdell had decided, you know what, Sergeant calls out, Dowdell, why don't you head back there and ask that guy if you can take a look in there after you finish your next call and see if you can just, for giggles, let's go back there. And Dowdell goes back, says, hey, Mr. Finnegan, I'd like to take a look at that freezer. Why, come on in, Officer Dowdell. Sure, come on in. Why, look at here. Pizzas and burritos. End of case. Send that woman to Ridgebrook, boys. The fridge is empty. Because he's deceiving. Confirmed. And Jennifer Miller, you heard from Jennifer Miller, the Pint House manager. He's a great, reliable employee. He shows up to work on time, works hard. Never knew he had a victim in his fridge. But she also said,
So, Lady Steph says he's doing all this, but the last voice the jury will hear is the prosecutors. They can discredit what he's saying. True, but if you remember, Lady Steph, I think it was the baby Quentin's trial. Remember, that's where we kind of talked about, and it was new to me, or first time I paid attention to the fact that after the fence closes, that the state gets an opportunity to have the last word and still speak again. So that might be what happens. I think we saw that in the Lonnie Simon trial.
obviously he has access to sharp instruments, and I don't know if you remember the terminology Dr. Malusinik said, but she described it as beautiful. The cut was beautiful with a very sharp instrument. And her instruments get dull very rapidly, even, because cutting through skin is not easy. Cutting through cartilage is not easy. Very sharp instruments like a chef would use. And she tells you, Jennifer Miller, what a coincidence, right before COVID, the baseball bat at the bar goes missing. Who has access to the baseball bat? He does. She also tells you that they used to kid him about having multiple girlfriends. And she knew one of the girlfriends. She said Rebecca, and then Jen had to go. And that was it. You heard from Danny Miller next. He's from Rena Center. He gave you the concrete data when the refrigerator was delivered on the 28th. You heard in the defendant's own words that he didn't know what to do with her body, so he rented a freezer and he stuck her in the freezer. His own words. She's dead by the time he walks into the Rena Center on 12/27. That's why he rented the freezer. And why did he rent a freezer instead of dumping her over the Solway Bridge? Because he's keeping her. He wants to keep her. And he wants to keep her breasts exposed and her face exposed so he can open it up and look at it whenever he wants to jerk off.
Oh, wow. Not jerk off. Not jerk off.
And you heard from Officer Kevin Craig. You heard from Craig, Millsaps, Williams, and Hannon, documenting and collecting, investigating. And there's a lot to do about the DNA that's collected. And you heard from John Hannon about crime scenes. And, that is common sense, right? It's that a crime scene, evidence is going to get lost. It's going to get over. People are going to walk and pick it up on their feet, and shell casings get up in people's tires and things of that nature. Crime scene was 8 months old. The murder happened 8 months ago. So processing an 8-month-old crime scene, then arguably, if you Swiffer it once a week, 8 times, 32 times, you've Swiffered the living room floor. What kind of evidence are you going to get there? But nonetheless, it doesn't matter because he admitted to you. He admitted to you that he and Rebecca were present. He switches his role. He and Rebecca were present when the beating took place, and it took place in the living room, corroborated by Jennifer Millsap's finding of the victim's blood in the living room. And there's a lot of cross-examination.
Sir,
just looking at Jennifer's final resting place. Looking at the wear on the bed rails where she was chained. Looking at the locks that he changed for the purpose of keeping the key door locked, and the bags, and the chain itself. And the evidence that they collected. And there's a lot of cross-examination about, there's no male DNA on the chain. Well, he admits chaining her. You heard him tell Mike Ure, I put the chain around her, but Rebecca put the locks on. He admits touching it. 8 months ago, John Hannon came in and gave you a review of the phones. It tells you a lot about the true relationship between the defendant and Rebecca. You're going to read through those texts. They're in the record. We only read one to you. But it will define and tell you how they treat each other. And there is an absolute dominance in this relationship. And he's the dominant one. He's the master. You're going to see from those texts. And also about teaching you about their relationship, that who has photos of them ejaculating on their girlfriend and taking a picture of her face with your ejaculate on it? Who has a phone of you, who has a picture on their phone of your girlfriend after you've defecated on her and taken a picture while she walls around and taken it and left it on your phone? Think about the nature of that relationship. Who's in control of that relationship?
Disgusting.
Who speaks to their girlfriend with the terms bitch, slut, and whore? Because that's what you're going to see in the text. That's what he calls her. When she calls him master, daddy, and interestingly, Musafa.
Musafa.
Or is it Mufasa? I'm sorry, Mufasa. And you may know who Mufasa is, if you know anything about Disney. He's the Lion King. So
Mufasa. Musafa. Girl, why we call him that?
And you can learn a lot from their relationship through the images from his phone that John Hannon collected and the communication between the two, the only communication between the two, because he was in control of not only her phone when she could have a phone and she didn't have one, but he also would tell neighbors when and where they could go and do. When does somebody tell another adult, you're grounded? When does another person define where and when you're going to be communicating on a phone as an adult?
Not he corny.
He wasn't. You recall Mahogany telling you she was like a mother to Rebecca. Rebecca was childlike, and that's what their relationship was. He was telling her to do what to do like a child because he was her master, and that's exactly who was in control of everything that happened right here. Everything that happened right here was at his control and under his control and direction. And you read those texts, and you'll see. Dr. Darinka Milusinik was the last witness.
The judge, like, well, you heard the hell up.
You're not involved in the criminal justice system, but you may have some role in what you do, where you see the underbelly of society. You see a background where you see cruelty or inhumanity. You may see that. I don't know, but it probably this is a first for you to see how humans can treat each other with such cruelty. And Dr. Milusinik's testimony amplified that and gave that to you, that this woman was tortured, that this death took a while. And of course, she said it in the words that she says it: antemortem, postmortem, premortem, perimortem. And that was the most interesting ones, the perimortem wounds while she was dying. She was sustaining stab wounds while she was dying. And when you look at those 5 rings around her neck, and you know each one of those, the pressure that would have been taken and the life that she was perceiving was expiring, as Jennifer lay prone, face down, and being pulled up with all his might, him straddling over her between his legs, pulling with a shoestring on her neck. Well, the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one. Smoke a cigarette in between, take a break.
What you say, Miss Step 219?
So the takeaway from Dr. Milusinik isn't just the brutality of what happened to her, because she was brutalized, but to also show you the physicality that would be needed to do this. Who could do this in this case? The defendant or Rebecca Dishman? When you just think about it from its pure physical sense, of accomplishing this. And I'll bet you Jennifer Paxson, you know, we talk about Jennifer, she was homeless, right? And I said to you earlier, she's probably the most easiest person to kill on the planet. But what we don't want to discount is that people who live outside tend to be tougher than me, because they tend to be living for themselves and in fights and things of that nature and kind of fending in the kind of animal type kingdom.
What?
Not to
Now
offend
see how the judge
anybody who lives that lifestyle, but there has got to be some
Did y'all
toughness
see
to
how that
that.
judge just looked at him when he said
So
living in the
I
wild
would
animal
say
kingdom?
that she could put up a fight until she was so doped up, she'd kill Dr. Malusnik with enough morphine in her. Hopefully she didn't feel it. But what Dr. Malusnik did for you is show you blunt force trauma head to toe. You look at the autopsy photographs, bruised everywhere, everywhere. Major head injuries, open injuries on her forehead, right? You can see right down to the bone. Look at the photos. Complied with Finnegan's mama's dope. Stabbed and sliced dozens, not 30, 40 times. And Dr. Malusnik told you the ligature wounds. In addition to the ligature wounds, he slit her throat. And I talked to you at the beginning of this about a bank robbery. We talked about how we would make deals, and I said, I'm your public prosecutor. We have to make decisions. And in a case where you have multiple co-defendants, say you got the 5 guys that go into the robbery, we got to do the wheelman. Who we going to take? Who we going to make a deal with? Who we going to put to trial, and who we going to settle? And you think about that in this case. And your district attorney, Dave Clark, made that decision. And that decision was to try Sean Finnegan. And I want you to think about the reverse. Think about if instead Rebecca Dishman were sitting here and Sean Finnegan were the state's witness. You remember Sean Finnegan, the confirmed liar from Larry Dowdell? And also from Mahogany Pico. Remember, Mahogany told you about the fridge where she went in, saw the fridge. Hey, what's with the fridge? Oh, the landlord delivered it, but he mistakenly delivered it. We're bringing it back.
Living so
Second
it is.
confirmed liar, right?
You don't recognize
Confirmed deceiver. Am I going to put him on the stand?
Just watch the judge.
To say, I just came home. I worked so hard. And there she was in that state. With Rebecca, with Colt Pico and Mahogany Pico out there going to testify. God, Rebecca was in so much danger. We got her out of Dodge. We were taking her to a women's shelter. And I'm going to put the violent one on the stand for the state and go against her. And the judge is going to tell you, or when he tells you about the law, he's going to explain to you felony murder. And we talked a little bit about that, about felony murder. If you engage in certain types of felonies and somebody dies, that's called felony murder. And kidnapping is one of them. Kidnapping, killing during the commission of a kidnapping is felony murder. And the defendant in his statement confessed to felony murder.
I ain't never seen both the counsel and co-counsel
together. Even let's take his statement for absolute truth. If we took it for truth, my girl hit her with a bat. I chained her up. Yes, I chained her up. I put the chain around her neck. I didn't know what to do. I was going to nurse her back to health and then free her. And then a killing occurs. He says it doesn't occur in his presence. The judge is going to read you the law. It doesn't have to occur in his presence. If he's part of the kidnapping and puts the chain around her neck, he's guilty of kidnapping, and a killing occurred during that commission of that kidnapping, and he is guilty of felony murder on his own statement. guilty. Just like all the guys in the bank robbery were guilty.
Oh yeah. Now that's a good
When some trigger man went into the bank and the wheelman stood outside.
way to go. Good point. Felony murder, because when one guilty, everybody guilty.
The same thing.
How can that not be the same with this type of case, right?
And the defendant, when you look at this and take the bigger approach of what this defendant did, he took a three-pronged approach at you, folks. He took a three-pronged approach.
Hold on, y'all.
His first was to.
So now I think I get it, right? I think I get now that what's happening, why it may seem like he's being redundant going around and around, is I think he's talking through each of the counts and explaining how you can find them guilty. But unlike a couple of other lawyers and closing remarks that we've seen, they literally said, count one. This is what it is. This is He's not doing it. It's like, I don't know. But he weighing all of us out. Let me see something. Y'all, come on. Y'all can do it. Okay?
To deny, right? The Oak Ridge police come up. They say, what's going on? We think there's a body here. I don't know what you're talking about, but that's bull. No, that's deny. Number one, he's a liar, right?
Because it keep repeating itself, right?
Number two, the defendant then heads into the house, mocks up the scene, creates the atmosphere where he's going to try and deceive the Oak Ridge police because he thinks they're coming back. He doesn't know they're coming back with a SWAT team. He thinks they're coming back and he's getting ready to deceive. That's number two. He's deceived, right? And so if he lied and he deceived and he was attempting to deceive in his three-pronged approach, number one, number two, and number three, his statement, deflect. Say, do that, right? We call that the Soddy defense, SODDI. Some other dude did it. When you get caught red-handed with the blood on your hands, what are you going to do?
It's different.
Except say some other dude did it. And that's exactly what he did. Wasn't me. Oh, my girl did all that. She's crazy. She's bipolar. She's schizophrenic. Oh, you got to go talk to her about that. So when he lied and denied, and he deceived and deceived, why would you believe when he deflects?
That's one of the choices about what they did to body.
That's the last thing he can possibly do, to deceive you and avoid any consequence. He was trying to deceive you. And so what it comes down to is he's admitted to felony murder if you believe him. If you believe him, you'll acquit him of all the other charges. It'll be a quick verdict. Just let him go on the rest. But he's admitted to felony murder during a kidnapping. But if you watch and view this case from the common sense approach that you need to look at it from, with Colt Pico and Mahogany Pico and the danger Rebecca Dishman was truly and genuinely in, and that based on their actions, that he's lying in that number three. That he was right there, and what Rebecca in her limited way and all whatever she could muster and how she mustered it and how her processor works was able to convey. She watched him kill Jennifer Paxton. And she told you exactly how he did it, that he straddled over her, pulling with all his might, smoke a cigarette. And so when you think about that, and you're going to weigh the deceiver, the known liar, the known staging of this mock scene that he was attempting to get away with it the second time, and the deflector, I didn't do it, she did it, and you weigh who those people are, looking at the text and reading into the people and the encounter with Kelsey Combs and all of that you have, you know who they are. The physicality that was required is Master, Daddy, and Mufasa to do this. Not slut, whore, bitch, who he's crapping on
Hey, Tracy, today?
and taking
Today,
pictures
Tracy?
of. And so I would ask you, in that bigger view, when you look, at the totality of this case, and you consider all of the facts and evidence in this case, looking at it logically, without emotion, bias, or prejudice, just like we asked, I'd ask you to render a verdict of guilty on all counts and tell him your third prong approach, prong 3, ain't working on us. Please find him guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, General.
Yeah.
We'll do this way, a 10-minute break. So everybody rise, please. We'll call you back in 10 minutes.
All right. So that's the defense. We're not gonna take no break with them. We're gonna push through. Now it's time for the defense. Baby, I don't trust nobody with no freezer, okay?
The disgusting nature of all of it, gory things.
All right, let it be patient. And here we go with the defense closing. I wasn't expecting this tonight, but that's actually good, so we don't have to wait to come back to it next week. We'll be starting with some fresh content at nighttime for the trial watch with Demetra. Do some paroles, some arrest videos,
Thank you, FC.
some sentences. Mhm.
Sir. All right, ready for closing argument?
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna move over here so I can see.
That'll be fine, Judge. I wasn't sure where to put that.
Oh, you're fine.
Everybody could see. We all see that. Great. All right. You all set?
Yes, sir, go.
All right. Well, I told you all at the beginning of this, it's probably gonna be the hardest thing you had to do. And that it was gonna be a lot of fantastic stuff, a lot of gory things and a lot of gross things and a lot of things that are probably outside of our normal life experiences. Mostly outside of my life experiences, and I'm making assumptions that most of this stuff was probably outside of yours too. So what I'd like to do is go through the evidence and take a look at what the state's case is and see if we can't separate out the disgusting nature of all of it from the facts that are supposed to lead you to a conclusion. And that's really what you're here to do. And so when I told you at the beginning that this was an intellectual exercise and not an emotional exercise, I meant it. You have to be able to separate out the ridiculousness of this case. I don't really know any other way to say it. I mean, this is a horrible case. Like I said, there's a reason why there's interest in this outside of Anderson County. You hear body in the freezer, and it's not all you need to hear, right? And people want to hold
Very true.
people accountable
Guilty.
for that kind of thing.
Guilty.
So,
Not even
but it's
freezer.
important
Guilty.
that we determine what the elements are. And this is where we're talking about an intellectual exercise versus an emotional exercise. Is just because it's outrageous, just because it seems like anybody involved with this should be hung by their toes, and maybe that's what you feel like. But that's not the law, and that's not what we're here to do. We're asking you to do something much more difficult than that. We're asking you not to jump to conclusions. We're asking you to actually look at what came in through the witness stand and through the evidence, and what does it tell you? Because the state does have to prove each and every element of these crimes to you beyond a reasonable doubt. Each and every element. That means even if there's 4 elements and 3 of those elements are satisfied, but there's one that's not proven beyond a reasonable doubt, that's not guilty. Does everybody understand that? I'm not supposed to, you can't answer me, but so what I want to do is just talk about who we have involved, okay? And we start with Rebecca Dishman.
Why is he writing with a chart? Baby, I ain't seen this in a long time.
What do we know about Rebecca Dishman from the witnesses? What do we know about her before she met Sean? We know that she had trouble staying in homes. She would live with.
I will, Tracy. I wrote it down.
She kept getting kicked out of wherever she
this
lived.
weekend. I'm be doing a lot of research and development.
She testified to that. She never testified about being homeless or anything like that. So she obviously has a skill at being able to find a place to live. She hadn't worked in some time, although she did have a job as a CNA, right? So we know one thing: she moved around a lot. And what's more important about that is that she's kicked out of every place she lives. And if you've ever had anybody that's living with you, or if you've ever had relatives, or you know anybody that does these
yes,
kind of
indeed,
things,
living.
people
Thank
don't
y'all.
kick sweet, simple girls out of their house. People kick people out of their house because they're a danger or a threat to something in their home, either from stealing from them or they're harmful or some reason. People don't kick people out of their house and wash their hands of them because they're sweet, innocent girls. And the state is trying to present her as this mentally handicapped young lady who's sweet and innocent and is somehow a victim, even though they allowed her to plead guilty to all of the first-degree murder and kidnapping and rape. So don't let them base their entire case, which they have, on Rebecca Dishman and the fact that they're trying to tell you that she's incapable of lying. The fact that the DA just stood up here and said that Rebecca Dishman is incapable of lying should give you pause.
It gave me pause.
That's a bold statement to make about their witness, isn't it? I mean, I've heard about bolstering witnesses, but my witness can't lie. Wow. So your first-degree murderer, rapist, kidnapper doesn't have the ability to lie. She can set up fake Facebook accounts and she can carry on conversations and relationships outside of her normal relationship.
I said that.
She doesn't have the ability to lie. So be careful. That's what I'm saying. The state is overplaying the hand a little bit here. And if they have to overplay, you have to ask yourself why. They've got a body in the freezer. They've got someone who's clearly tortured. I mean, there's no denying that this young lady is victim here. But that's not what this trial has been about. We haven't really heard that much about Jennifer Paxton. We've mostly heard about how Rebecca Dishman is a victim. So let's talk more about what we know about her before she met Sean Finnegan. She moved around several different places, got kicked out of all of them, needed a place to stay. Mostly it was with people she called fiancés, right? She's 22 years old. She has 4 or 5 fiancés. She uses the word fiancé because she moves in with every single one of them because they give her a place to live and they feed her. So she moves around a lot. What else do we know about her? She doesn't work. She stays at home. She thinks she called herself a stay-at-home girlfriend, right? stay-at-home girlfriend. All right. She's lazy. She doesn't want to do anything. She stays at home and she lets other people take care of her. That's her MO. That's what she does. And what makes people want to take care of people? If you're sweet and you're simple and you seem like you need help and somebody to take care of you, what did all the witnesses say? She just seemed like someone who needed to be taken care of. That's how she presents herself. Because there's a lot of other things going on in the background, isn't there? There's all these other things happening. She's clearly able to lie and do all these other things, but she presents herself to these people in a certain way to accomplish what she needs. She's incredibly manipulative. And we know this because she's reaching out and trying to carry on a relationship, at least through Facebook or something, on someone else's phone with an ex-boyfriend, Ramsey's. We heard that. Because that's in the text. You'd be able to read it where she sends a text to Sean while he's at work and says, I had a dream about Ramsey's last night. Doesn't that seem like you're just sort of poking at somebody? I had a dream about my ex-fiance last night. That's how she starts the conversation. That's one of the conversations, and he gets angry in there.
Nah, she didn't do nothing for the mama. Remember she said that?
Sexual text, and she starts the conversations. And then he's at work and he says, I got to go, I'm busy. That's really important, who's starting the conversations, okay? When someone's calling themselves your little girl and baby's little girl, and they want to set it up like it's a servant-master relationship, but dominance and submissive sexually does not equate to life. There are masters of industry and CEOs of giant corporations that pay thousands of dollars to dominatrix to be submissive. So don't conflate the two. Sexual desires and life can be different. And so don't conflate the two. What else do we know about her? So she's into kinky sex, right? Before Sean. She told us that on direct. On direct, maybe cross. I don't remember, but she told us that on the stand. We also know that because she showed up to Sean's house with her own sex toys and butt plugs. I don't know if you know what butt plugs are. I'm not a sex expert. I'm not Dr. Ruth or Dr. Joyce Brothers, and that probably shows my age that I'm using those as references. But I'm pretty sure butt plugs are something you stick in your butt. I'm just going to go out there. But she brought that to his house. There's literally nothing about Sean having kinky relationships or anything outside of maybe a prostitute or somebody coming to his house until she shows up. There's nothing in evidence until she shows up. She shows up with those toys. If you look at that picture of her that looks like she's rolling around in feces or something that the DA keeps liking to show you, she took that picture. She took that picture and sent it to Sean. That's why it's on this phone. You can see it from the angle of the shot. So we keep talking about her being sweet and innocent and she can't lie. And what really comes down is who's in control. That's what this whole trial seems to be about, is who's kind of controlling this relationship. And the reason why it matters is because intent is an element. So to convict somebody of first-degree murders, convict somebody of kidnapping or aggravated kidnapping or any of those sort of crimes, you have to find that they intended that it happened that way. And so that's what we're going to dig a little bit deeper into as well. So what else do we know about Miss Dishman? Before she met before she met Sean, she's into Satanism. The state wants to gloss over that, but she comes in and says she's into Satanism and a Wiccan and all these other things. Her dad was a preacher. I understand that teenagers dabbling and all that kind of stuff, but we're dealing with a horrific murder here with a body that is cut up and sliced, and there is a crucifix that's cut off of her arm. They can say it's slashed out or whatever. That's not. There may have been freezer burn on there, but they can't really. She didn't testify that that body was taken out of that freezer at that point, so she didn't know any of that stuff really. The body could come in and out of that freezer a couple of times. We don't really know. Okay, but We know that the biggest part that was sliced off of her arm is where the tattoo of the crucifix was. There's no other cut like that anywhere on her body. We know she was a cutter. There's tons of little cuts all over this body. So what they want to do is make this Sean's fantasy, right? This hookers are the easiest ones to kill. So this is Sean's fantasy. And I told you at the beginning that it's too easy. You know, who are they going to blame, right? Who are they going to blame? And so that's how you could see that he might be fearful that there's a body, or maybe he couldn't make the right decisions, and maybe he made terrible decisions. But the point is they're trying to switch roles, and I'm trying to switch roles, and that's what we seem to be arguing about here, is who was actually in control of this relationship. We've got Dishman. She moved around. She can't stay in a place, and she's constantly looking for the next place to go and who's going to take care of her. Okay, she's a Satanist. She has a history of kinky sex. She shows up with all her own kinky sex toys. They meet on Facebook. Have no idea what she said to him on Facebook. We know she was a CNA. We know he takes care of his 80-year-old mother who's in hospice care. Maybe she said, I could come live with you and help care and take care of your mother. I don't know. We don't have any of that stuff, do we? I have no idea what that conversation is. Okay, what else do we know about her? Before Sean. I think that's about it. I think that's about all we know about her. So what do we know about Sean before her? I'll put Finnegan up.
Yeah, they bring prostitutes home to the house.
Sean lived in the same place for a couple of years. Same place, all right? Same place, same home. Sean worked a full job, full-time job, more than a full-time job. And during the busy times of the year, every day he worked. That's the testimony. Okay, so he worked full-time.
I tried to find out, but I couldn't find any information snack about the mama.
He worked at full time. He took care of his 80-something-year-old mother who's in hospice care and ailing and dying. He's picking up her medicine. He's going to work from 5 in the afternoon till 5 o'clock in the morning, just about every day. That's 12 hours a day, not counting driving from Oak Ridge to Merchants. So 12 to 13 hours a day, most days. He's not at that place. He's not at that apartment. But he's got a mother to take care of. So it seems reasonable that he might want a little help. If a girl is there and could stay there, that would be helpful. That would be a reason for her to be there. She's a CNA. But you heard from her that she had an up and down relationship with Miss Francis, and I'm not sure that she really did much of anything around that house, is what it kind of sounds like. But she had the freedom to leave or stay or help Miss Francis, or really, she had all the time in the world to do whatever she wanted to. Of the two people that are involved in this, only one of them had all the time in the world to do whatever they wanted to. And it wasn't Sean Finnegan. Sean Finnegan wasn't there. Sean Finnegan's a simple kind of dude. This is what we know.
Exactly.
He has the same home. He takes care of his mother. He has the same job. He shows up. He's on time. He's reliable. He does a good job. He stays after work and hangs out. Seems like a normal guy. That's what the person that worked with him said, right? Didn't say anything negative about it necessarily. Something about having 2 girlfriends and laughing around and joking around, and he mentions a Jen. Well, Jen is not an uncommon name, first of all, so who knows who he was talking about, or if that was what he meant when he said it. I mean, they're trying to make you believe some off-the-cuff remark has something to do with this when it may have absolutely nothing to do with it at all. He was, let's say, he took care of his mom. That's an important thing. Took care of mom. He was a regular at Rent-A-Center. He was a good customer. He paid his bills on time. He was reliable. He showed up every Friday to pay his bills. That's from Rent-A-Center. He rented other stuff. It wasn't uncommon for him to rent things. Okay? So that's the stuff we know about Sean. So these are the 2 people that we have before they meet. We have Rebecca Dishman. She moved around, couldn't stay in a place. She's obviously burning every bridge. She's burning every bridge. She meets Sean on Facebook, moves in with him in a short amount of time, not to work, but to be taken care of, to be a stay-at-home girlfriend. And I have to assume help with his mother. I have to assume. I don't know. But I think that's kind of what she inferred, even though she said she didn't. She kind of had an up and down relationship with her. But I would think for Sean, it would be comforting to know that there was someone there with your 80-year-old mother who's sleeping at the top of a wooden staircase. It's just a thought, and you have to be away because you have to support everyone, which is what he was doing. So he housed her, he fed her, including several other people who probably stayed and maybe helped with his mother. But that's what we know about them. That's what we know about them from their witness, from the state's witness.
The mama was trying to tie all them hoes in and out the house.
We're talking about character here, right? What do we know about from the neighbors? Okay, because they make McDowell. The neighbors choose Rebecca, right? Well, Sean lived there before Rebecca. The neighbors knew him before Rebecca was there. And what did they say? We never had a problem with Sean. They were friends. Nothing weird. Never had a problem. Good neighbor. Pre-Rebecca. Pre-Sean. All right. So they met on Facebook, right? It didn't take long before she moved in. And we talked earlier about how our natural tendency, I think, in power, looking at a power and control in a relationship, my natural tendency is to think, especially in most scenarios, that a man is in charge.
Seem to be very well organized.
Some kind of, I don't know, combative relationship or whatever. We usually think of the man as being bigger and stronger and in charge. Folks, look at the pictures. If you're just talking about the strength, because he brought up strength, that's the only reason I'm bringing this up. At the time, Sean probably weighed 150 pounds. I don't know. That might be in the record, so whatever. So did Rebecca, or maybe more. She was bigger than she was when she sat in here, and she had purple hair. She looked different than she came in here. So that's another thing you should ask yourself about too, is why would they dress her up like a teenager and sit her up in here with her hair and her glasses and stuff to make her look like she was simple? That's not what she looked like when she was arrested. So then let's jump forward to August 8th, 2020, because that's really where the story begins, right? And we've got this timeline down here. That's what I'm going to use. All right. Back here's November, December. This is 2019. All right. And then we got all the way over here. We got August 8th. I'll go 8/8. 5th. Sorry. August 5th. And that's when the story begins. That's when.
So far, what y'all thinking about the defense closing statement? Let me know.
To escape, right? But she's not escaping Sean. She's escaping the situation that she created because she's been in control the entire time. The entire time. Sean, what was he supposed to do, honestly? Right? If you believe, if you like what his statement was, where he comes home or she hits her, or he comes home and she strangled her, what's he supposed to? It is his house. It's in his house. What's he supposed to do? I don't really have a good answer for that, because my thought is that if he called the police, he would be sitting right there. He'd still be sitting right there. He'd still be sitting there. So now who's the prisoner? Is it the one who is at the house for 12 hours a day with unlocked doors, not chained to anything, no telephone, no GPS monitoring on her, none of this stuff? I mean, who could come and go as she pleases? If she just walked out the door and left, he'd never be able to find her. That's all she had to do. She didn't do any of that. She stayed for 8 months until just a couple of weeks before she left. And she started to set up her escape, didn't she? She goes over to the neighbor who everything's fine with up at this point. Everything is fine with the neighbors up at this point. And she starts hinting to them, right? She starts hinting to them a couple of weeks before this. Sean's abusive. And she's simple. That's the way she presents herself to them. She's sweet and simple. She's sweet and simple, and she comes over and she borrows her phone and sexts her boyfriend and then deletes the text so that the neighbor can't see what she's texting on it. Simple. She goes next door to the neighbor she's never spoken to, not friends with, any of that kind of stuff, right? Just to tell her that he's going to kill me, whatever. Can I borrow your phone so I can set up a fake Facebook account to contact my ex-fiance? Simple, right? They're saying that she can't process, so that's the stuff she comes up with. That's called manipulation.
Exactly,
That's not
exactly.
simple.
Good
That's not simple or computation. That is complex computation. She is creating this scenario where she is the victim. She's the victim. She's always the victim. And the state bought it. And so their entire investigation is dependent upon what she told them happened. And that's what we're going to follow now, right? So August 5th, the neighbor decides to get her out of there, right? Today's the day. And I think maybe she let something slip to Mahogany that she didn't mean to. And that started the steamrolling. That's kind of what I think happened. And now she's stuck. And so she's got to go. Or maybe she's been setting up this whole time because she was ready to go. Maybe she had another boyfriend who's had an open room. I mean, it could have been as simple as that. She had another place to go. Because on testimony, that's how she ended up with Sean. On testimony, she said, well, he convinced me to move in. And then on the very next line, she said, and I thought I was going to get kicked out of the last place. I thought I was going to get kicked out of the place I was in before. So she needed a place to go. And she found Sean. And she moved in. And his life changed. His life changed. Not hers. Okay, so we got her going to the police, and she starts to tell them the story. And the story is that she's the abuse victim. That's how it starts. She's on her way to a shelter because she's the abuse victim. I haven't seen any pictures of black eyes or bruises or strangle marks on her or any of that kind of stuff. So she's the least bruised up abuse victim I've ever seen in my life who was being threatened to kill. This is another manipulative move.
Why Mahogany didn't have no pictures
Controlling
of her like
the
that?
situation. She's controlling the narrative. She knows that when she gets out of the house and she gets to the police, they treat her like a victim because that's what they're supposed to do. She's a female, she's young, she's coming in, she says she has an older boyfriend who abuses her. And we're taught to believe that because we're supposed to. But she was lying. But these officers don't know that. They're doing their job. And so they take her side. And even though she gives multiple stories, even in that first interview, and we talked about it on Cross, but even in that first interview, she talks about the body, about the whole thing is different. It happens at a different time of year. She's there for weeks, chained up to the bed. All this torturing is happening, all this stuff. She's making up all this stuff that changes over time as they go through the interview, but they still believe her because she has the inability to lie. Remember, she can't lie. And so she's still in control. She's guiding the investigation, and she knows something about that. She knows that there's a body at Sean's place because he helped cover up the murder she committed. She knows all the details. She knows all the details of the body. She knows all the details of everything on that woman, on Miss Paxton's body, her tattoos, number of kids, all these kind of things. You know why? Because she was there with her 12 to 13 hours a day by herself. The whole time, anytime, whenever she was there, she was the one who was with her. The ME told you that those all those injuries. I mean, I think the DA asked her, how long would it take to accomplish this? Someone would have to spend a lot of time with them, right? Well, who spent a lot of time with her? Not Sean. He was working. He was working or picking up his mom's medicine. Or, you know, it's something we haven't talked about is I'm guessing that he probably slept on occasion too. So if he's working 12 or 13 hours a day and he sleeps only 5 or 6 hours a day, it doesn't leave a whole lot of time for him to be controlling Rebecca and setting up all this stuff for this murder that he had absolutely no reason to commit. No reason to commit. He's living his life. The only thing that changed about his life, he's already got girls that come over and have sex with him. That's what we learned, right? He's already got girls that will come over and have sex with him and help him take care of his mother. Even after Rebecca's there, girls come home with him and they have threesomes. And they happen and everybody moves on with their life. That's his life. That's what's going on. We may not agree with the lifestyle or whatever, but that's the lifestyle he was living. That didn't change until she entered the picture. Something that caught me from the DA during opening, I think it was, but they said something like, this is a paraphrase, but Rebecca Dishman was with Sean Finnegan for only a few weeks, and suddenly then there was a dead girl in the apartment. So I'd like to say that now, because I think it sounds different when I say it versus when they say it. Sean Finnegan only knew Rebecca Dishman for 3 to 4 weeks, and suddenly there was a dead body in his apartment. The apartment he'd been living in with his mother for 2 years. She's what changed. She's what changed.
I think you make an excellent, reasonable doubt.
The person that goes to work every day, how is he controlling her? That's what I don't understand. How is he controlling her? Well, he doesn't allow her to have a phone. You mean he doesn't pay for her phone? Because the last boyfriend let her other phone that was there, they couldn't start up, let the service go out because he got tired of paying for her phone. So he doesn't allow her to have a phone. They really are stretching to make this servant-master relationship. She sits at home all day doing nothing. He goes out and works and provides for him, his mother, her, maybe even a couple other girls that stop by every once in a while, right? It's easy to point the finger at the 50-year-old white dude over there. It looks kind of creepy, right? It's just really easy to point the finger at it, and she knew that. She knew it when she started, and she's the one
kind of creepy, huh?
who has the reason to do it, and has a history of jealousy and overreaction. And we heard about that too. Because what happened after she got arrested? She started a relationship with a corrections officer. And then she sat up here and said she didn't receive any benefits from it. I thought that was the most interesting thing I heard most of the trial. She received no benefits for her relationship with the corrections officer. Other than the time spent with the corrections officer and access to the phone, I suppose, which is also a felony, by the way. And then to show that she's overreactive in a weird psychotic sort of way, when she finds out that maybe this correction officer is having some kind of flirtation or relationship with other inmates, she threatens to kill them. She admitted that, didn't she? She threatened to kill people because they were having a relationship or whatever perceived relationship with a corrections officer that she perceived that she was having a relationship with. And her reaction was to threaten to kill them. And the state's position is, well, she didn't do anything about it. She's in jail. But that's what she does. Anyway, okay, so we're back to the 5th. She's setting this up. She's setting up her escape. She's telling a neighbor about some stuff that is just kind of silly and ridiculous. It doesn't even make any sense going over to this neighbor. And then the neighbor's testimony.
I think Rebecca could have did it now herself too.
It's about her right now. That's what this case is about. And she starts feeding this stuff to Mahogany. And I think we get to the point that I think Mahogany and her husband are good people. I think they're good people, and they wanted to. They're just going about their business, and I think Mahogany was duped by her, just like everybody else has been duped by her along the way. She's a sweet girl and just thought she was innocent and sweet, and just didn't think that she thought like other people and stuff. And then you heard her whenever she found out what those texts were. When she actually got to read the text that Rebecca was sending on her phone before she deleted them, she was shocked by them, because that's not who she thought Rebecca was, because that's not who Rebecca showed her. And so when she goes to the police, they treat her like victims, whether they're supposed to, and she plays that part. And then she starts feeding them details and strange details, right? So that we've got the fireball bucket. A lot of the stuff's in evidence, and it's going to be back there with it. And it's based on what she testifies.
Very interesting.
It's all based on what she says. Every single thing comes from her. Every single thing. So let's go back. Let's go through our witnesses, okay? Let's go through our witnesses. We started out with 911. It's a call from Colt Pico. He's basically just regurgitating what his wife told him, right? I'm taking Rebecca. My wife called me. The neighbor says there's a body in the freezer. Anybody hears that, they're gonna freak out, right? So of course he did the right thing and he called 911, and that started that process. That's what the 911. We hear from the family of the actual victim, in this case, Jennifer Paxton, who I feel like it's kind of gotten lost in this whole thing, because all we were able to talk about is this girl the whole freaking time. But they don't offer anything to the guilt or innocence of this. That's just to show you who the victim is. And so I'll move on from that. Phyllis Tonkin came in. She talks about the missing person. And really all of that is just to show you that she was vulnerable. I mean, that's the point, is to show you that she was vulnerable. She's a prostitute. She's a drug addict. But she chose that life. And that's the part that we kind of get into, is that it was a dangerous life, but she had opportunities to get help and places to live. And she chose to not do that. She chose to be homeless and be a drug addict. And that's not to knock down. I'm not trying to attack a victim here at all. The point of that testimony was to show you that she would be an easy victim. But the truth is that testimony, what it shows is that's how they met. I mean, she's a prostitute and he likes sex, and he's a kitchen guy and late nights, and she's a prostitute that hangs out around that bar, and they met. And it's a business contract, basically, right? It's the oldest profession, I think is what they call it. So again, whether we agree with it or not, that's the facts. That's the facts. And that's how they met.
Okay, Winter says the only thing that really makes it sound unbelievable is the fact that she did not call the police or get help as far as the crime. However, historically, there have been many cases where kidnap and you got to finish it. Kidnap, and so we're gonna get to the conclusion of Winter's statement. Miss Steph say she was with Jennifer all the time while Sean was at work. She could have let Jennifer go or called the police, right? And at the same time, she could have been up in there abusing her more, right? Getting off on the power she had. So I think the defense look like how we talking about it might be making some points as far as these have you thinking.
And so she agrees to go home with her bag.
Okay, so I'm gonna read all Winter's statement together. The only thing that really makes it sound unbelievable is the fact that she did not call the police or get help as far as the crime. However, historically, there have been many cases where kidnap and other such person have been left alone freely or even go out to shop. Some even have jobs and never attempt to escape. Then go right back to abusers. Right, and that goes back to how we was talking about that, what is that we call this something syndrome, We hadn't talked about that in a while and stuff, you know. Very, very true. Very, very true. You know, I remember a case with this woman. There's a lot of cases where the victim end up just not trying to even run or nothing. Stockholm syndrome. That's it.
And stuff because
Surprised nobody said it. Stockholm, exactly.
Because he does that.
That never came up in this case either.
That. You can stay here. Maybe she'll help with his mom. I don't know. I mean, I have to speculate on some of this stuff, right? Sorry. Okay. So Phyllis Tonkin comes in and she talks about the missing persons report. And that was filed in February. And so it kind of gives you an idea of how lost this girl was, you know, from her family. She's roaming around and nobody really even knows when people are seeing her and stuff, but it takes several months before people realize she's missing. So that missing persons doesn't come in until February. Then we hear Rebecca Dishman's testimony, and she's kind of the meat of their whole case. She starts the investigation. And every single step of the investigation is an attempt to confirm what she told them. It's an attempt to confirm what she told them. There's very little attempts to disprove what she said. And every attempt is made to make the evidence fit the story she's telling. And it's kind of confusing. And so I'm still really kind of confused. I still have a lot of questions about when this happened. And we're going to get to that too, because we're going to figure out how they come up with their timeline, because they created a timeline. And when they create a timeline and when they indict, they have to name the range of dates in which the crimes were committed. And that's part of something you're supposed to consider, is that they are saying that these crimes are committed during a certain range of
Exactly.
days.
That's what I was
And
saying.
they
Day
say
one, we
that
was
it
talking about that
happened
early on in the
before
case.
December 31st.
Day one. Yep. I remember.
2019. That's the last date on their indictment. So if a kidnapping or a first-degree murder, or if a first-degree murder or a kidnapping happened, for you to convict, for you to find beyond a reasonable doubt that they met their burden and reached all their elements, I think you have to find beyond a reasonable doubt that anything that happened, murder or kidnapping-wise, happened before December 31st, 2019, or it's outside the scope of the dates that they included in their indictment. That's what I'm talking about. This is an intellectual exercise versus an emotional exercise. Because if that's something that they haven't proven, then you have to have a reasonable doubt as to when the thing occurred. You have to. So let's figure out that. We'll get to that in just a minute. But just a brief of how they established their timeline is the freezer. And the freezer was delivered on the 28th of December. So now their timeline is not November through December 31st. It's December 28th is the delivery of the freezer, right? Rebecca Dishman's testimony was that the freezer was there already. That's what Rebecca said. Now, Sean, in his statement, there's like, I didn't know what to do. There was a body, and I got a freezer, and I put it in, or whatever. They're trying to make it sound like there was a body, and so he ordered the freezer to put the body in and stuff. But it's something that is in the middle of that interrogation when they're going after him, and so you need to take it for what it's worth. He pretty much sticks to his guns in that interrogation. Whether he's saying, I didn't do it.
She very much
not
innocent.
They're coming after him.
But she a victim
They're coming
too.
after him. I mean, they're just calling him a liar. They're doing all these things. And he's, look, you can call me a liar. I'm telling you I didn't do it. And he's admitting stuff that he knows he's going to get in trouble for, but he won't admit to those things. Someone did admit to those things, and she took the stand, and her name was Rebecca Dishman. She pled guilty to those things. The girl who can't lie. All right. The first thing she said when she took the stand, they asked something about, are you happy to be here? So I don't even know what they asked, but I heard what she said was, I've been waiting for this moment for 4 years. She's been waiting to grab control again for 4 long years. And she convinced them to go with what she said. And what did she get out of it? She got the rest of her life someone taking care of her. Exactly what she was looking for in the first place.
the state of Tennessee now is going to house her and feed her, and she doesn't have to get a job, and she could probably have all the kinky sex she wants. I think she might have gotten exactly what she wanted. And she comes in here, and who's in control? Now she gets to come in here, and she gets to play a part in deciding whether he lives or dies. Who's in control? Aunt and uncle kicked her out of the house.
She was a homosexual, Snack.
She says she moved because she was scared about getting kicked out. That's why she moved in with Sean. She talks about her jobs. She talks about punishments. I remember when they started talking about these punishments, and that was to set up this master-servant relationship, or the punishments. And she says that she got in trouble because she was texting her ex-fiance. So she got in trouble with Sean, and the punishment was he made her have sex with him. Well, I don't even know what to make of that, honestly. Like, you have to read her texts. We haven't read them into the record for you, and we haven't stood here and read them because you should probably read them yourself. But read the text, please. I mean, they tell you a whole lot about how she functions sexually and controls the conversations. And just because someone is submissive in their tone doesn't mean they're not in control.
That is very true.
Just because someone's submissive in their tone does not mean they're not in control when they use that to get what they want. And when you use your sexuality and you're sweet to get whatever you want, you're still controlling. And just about everybody that she meets seems to think that. She's this simple, sweet girl who they just convicted of first-degree murder and kidnapping. So you spent 12 hours a day with Miss Paxton sometime in that house. Be careful. Be careful trusting the evidence, because we're going to look at where the source of all this evidence is. And I think what we're going to find is that ultimately the source is right here. Right here. That's the source. All right. So after Jennifer, and I'm sure. Okay, she also is talking about she's screaming. She's talking about when Sean's beating her. And she said totally different stuff on the stand, by the way, than she said in any other statement. Sean's beating her with a bat, and she says that.
Let's check in with the little jury box. Winter been making her points. Winter says, "Hell, no, not that way." Is she innocent? Nope. Is she a victim? Yes. Winter says a victim who loved her abuser and became partners in murder. And then Snack says she's basically a bum. I called her a homosexual. Winter says forcing someone to have sex as punishment is absolutely a thing, sir. And then Lady Steph says Rebecca murdered Jennifer because she was jealous. Sean was her man, and she didn't want no other hold up. Sean just cleaned up after his woman. Case solved. Boom. Boom. Okay. Now that scenario makes sense too. Right? And I think that's the scenario that he's actually driving home. So after the closing arguments, we're gonna close for tonight. It's almost it's 11:30 here, but now we're gonna finish out the closing statements, and then tomorrow we're gonna come back for the verdict. We're gonna do our vote tomorrow for the verdict, the Little Lane jury verdict. We're gonna listen to the verdict, and then we're gonna watch the sentencing tomorrow. Okay, let's continue. Let's get through this closing arguments.
Jennifer Paxton is on the ground with, I think she called it a fireplace grate or something, and is protecting herself with a fireplace grate. And so as soon as she said that, I started thinking, well, I'd never heard that before. So we start looking through the pictures, and there's some pictures, and you can see them in there. There's not any real close-ups of it because I don't think anybody had ever heard that before, so they didn't actually take any pictures of it. But the fireplace has a screen over the front of it, and so I can assume that's probably what she's talking about. It doesn't look like it's been hit with a bat. That's all I'm saying. So I think that was just more falsification. She's just making up the story to go along. She also said, talking about, this was a really weird, awkward exchange.
exchange when she talks about him forcing her to climax over Jennifer Paxton after she'd been, I guess, assaulted or hit in the head or whatever. Forcing her to climax. I just didn't understand. I can't wrap my head around that. I can't wrap my head around it. I don't even know what she means by it. There is something wrong with her brain. The DA wants to make you think that she's simple or whatever, but that's not what's wrong with her brain. There's something deviant going on in there, and she's
Oh, that's
somehow
good.
been able
Something
to manipulate
deviant.
this
That's good.
entire
That's good.
process. Don't let her do it. Don't let her do it. All right. They were both smoking while this took place, evidently. Then she says that she stayed there because Sean went to work. So she stayed there and laid next to her on the bed and checked her pulse all night. Remember testifying about that? She laid there beside her all night to check her pulse to make sure she was still alive. Does anybody believe that?
Girl, she got off on that woman by
So
herself.
that might be the sickest thing I've heard. So she's cool with just laying there beside her. And I mean, she is observing. She's observing. She's the one who's there with Miss Paxton. She's the one who causes all this stuff and is observing it. She's got the time to do it. She's the one who cuts. She's the Satanist. She's all of these things that he is not. Who's in control?
They double
Mahogany
stepping in the
testified-
chat,
well,
y'all.
Dishman first testifies that she goes over, talks about Mahogany, saw bruises on my eyes, and my glasses were broken. So that story is very consistent, right? A bruise on my eye and glasses are broken. And that kind of starts this thing. And I asked Mahogany, did you see it? Where did you get that information? Rebecca Dishman.
Ooh, Tracy came through with the kinky sex.
How does she know that Sean calls that
Smoking calls climax.
Rebecca Dishman?
Very good point.
Okay, we heard from Kelly Coons. That's the neighbor who said she heard a noise, that it sounded like a fight that moved from the living room to the kitchen and then up the stairs and all this. And I did cross her a little bit hard because I'm trying to figure out what she actually heard, because that's not the stuff that she said in her statement. And I understand that people don't want to be involved, and maybe the first time you're interviewed, you don't give all these details. But to then come in here 4 years later and give those type of details, to me, it just seems a little bit like you might want to convict somebody, or you've been coached a little bit, or, this is what you think you're supposed to say to help out the prosecution or whatever. I'm not claiming she's lying. I'm not claiming she's making stuff up. I'm just saying that's different than what she said before. And then if you think about what she actually said, she said she heard what sounded like a fight and a commotion. She didn't hear any screaming or anything. She didn't say anything about screaming or any of that kind of stuff. It sounded like a fight, commotion, and then headboard banging, like rough sex, upstairs in the bedroom, which of course would not be next to any of her walls. It would be above her roof. But I can see how you might still hear that down the wall. I'm not going to suggest that she wouldn't hear that. But those are a lot of details for something. Those are a lot of details for 4 years later. And the one detail that's left out is when. I mean, she says around Christmas is when she heard that. She remembered it was around Christmas. And the reason she knows it was around Christmas is because her tree was up. That's how she knows that day. And she also testified that she keeps her trees up for at least 2 weeks into January, sometimes the entire month of January. So now we have our timeline, don't we? We have the freezer delivered on the 28th. Sean wasn't there. We heard that from the Rent-A-Center guy, right? Because he was at work. So he wouldn't have been home till the 29th. So he could have come home. The earliest he could have come home to Jennifer Paxton is the 29th now, right? The earliest. Based on Dishman's statement, who we're supposed to believe because she can't lie, right? So now it's the 29th at the earliest. And it could go anywhere to the end of January. second week of January, third or fourth week of January. Way outside, at least 2 or 3 weeks outside, past the date that they said that these crimes took place. That's an issue for them. It's an issue. And I'm certain that it feels like it's one of those technical things that people, you talk about, you know, it's just something technical. They go, it's not, it's an element. It's something that they're supposed to prove. And when the state or the government makes an allegation against someone and charges them with a crime, we hold them to a higher standard because they're making serious allegations. And the people who make serious allegations like this are well trained in how to do it. And so when they don't cross their T's and they don't dot their I's, or they make a mistake on the date range, or they make a mistake on what they're charging, or they overcharge, or they do these different things, we have to call them on it. And we have to hold them responsible. That's how we make them better. That's how we make the system work. And that's why I say you have to let go of your emotions. In a case like this, it's really hard. I'm going to keep saying it because it's hard for us. I mean, attorneys go home and cry at night sometimes too. And sometimes we're cold about stuff, but it's the truth because we're in here doing this crap all the time. All right. So you've got to look at the facts. You've got to look at the facts. You've got to separate yourself out from the disgustingness of this. So she doesn't establish anything, right? Because she also didn't say she knew that Sean was even home when she heard that noise. So that could have been something completely different. It may not even be related.
He tried real hard. Now you can't get him off, but you definitely not gonna get him to death sentence.
Rebecca and his mom arguing
about who did what.
I mean, we don't.
How can you find him guilty of murder one? And she could have been the one to pull a last stroke.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if she has other relationships. I don't know. I don't know. I know there's an unknown male on that body. That's weird. I'd like to know who that is. I'd like to know how it got there. Because that's supposed to be a body that was cleaned. I think she said bleached. And they spent a whole lot of time telling us how DNA degrades and how hard it is to find evidence. Which you know is a problem. Whenever the prosecutor's coming in and telling you that you should use your common sense, and which is really code for see it the way we see it, right?
He keeps saying about the dates because he's trying to find a loophole for reasonable doubt. If the state can't get it right about when it happened, how can they get anything else right? Mm-hmm.
You should use your common sense to fill in the gaps because finding evidence is hard. It's just really hard. That's not how this is supposed to work. It doesn't matter that it's hard. It doesn't matter if the scene is old. Those aren't, I mean, those are legitimate excuses of why evidence might not be there, but it doesn't absolve them of the responsibility of presenting you with evidence. And they're asking you just forget that part. Just use your common sense. There's a dead girl in a body. It has to be that creepy dude over there. That's what they say when they say use your common sense. Okay? And what I'm telling you is that this is not a common case. These are not common people involved in here. And what I talked to you guys about was perspective. And I talked to you about perspective because I don't want you to use your common sense. The judge is going to tell you you shouldn't throw your common sense out the window, and that's true. But if you think that you can use your common sense to figure out what was going on in the head of these people, I'm going to tell you that that's probably not the right way to look at it.
Good point. Oh, y'all can hear me follow my nails? I thought I was on mute.
You have to figure out intent. Who intended this to happen? Who had motive? Who needed this?
Pause. I am so sorry. I didn't know I had y'all off of mute and the snack. You ain't never lied. It is me and these damn baking soda nails. It seems like I sit here and play and mess with these. It's an obsession now. So I'm doing this. I've been doing this one hand with some new ones, right? Of course. And so I didn't put them on. And I'm dipping it in I did the dipping in the baking powder. In the baking powder, right? And so now I've been just falling away, and I'm practicing on getting the shape right and on getting them real smooth. You know what I'm saying? So let me read y'all comments. Sorry about that. My, because they are co-defendants, she only pled guilty to avoid the possible death penalty. Exactly. He could have done the same and avoided trial, but I guess he's sticking with his innocence. Well, I guess so, because he could have pled guilty. He absolutely could have. Demetra and that damn baking soda. Are you following your nails? Yes to both. Wouldn't the same be said of evidence, even if Rebecca did it? But we gotta remember, if it's more so about him beating. At this point, I really think it's about him getting that murder one charge dropped down, right? Because there's no way in the world he gonna get away with murder. And what I mean by that, no pun intended. But they gotta find him guilty of what? The felony murder we heard about? Because he definitely played a part. But I think the whole thing is maybe he pled not guilty because he do not want to go down like a lot of people being called and being actually looked at as the murderer, right? Winter says, Demetra, unless I missed something, did anyone ever say that the defendant ever had vaginal sex? Because all I kept hearing about was oral and sex pleasure. No, they never said. We never heard no testimony about the defendant having actual sex with Rebecca. Never said that. Them not finding any of his DNA on her nor on the chain isn't the only help. Correct. The only way, and they found Rebecca DNA is some unknown man. That was real weird, right? Very weird.
This to happen.
But no,
Who
they
wanted
never
this to
said about
happen?
anal. I mean,
Who reacts?
sex.
Who's jealous? Who's psychotic? Who has a history of not being able to maintain anything and burning bridges, even after they've been charged with crimes, can't stop. Even in jail, can't stop. It's not Sean Finnegan. It's Dishman. All right. So we talked to Colt Pico. He came in and he testified that Sean threatened to kill him. That's not what he said. You heard the conversation with him and the police officer, and that's not what he told the police officer. Sean came over and he told it. I'm sorry, Colt Pico told the police officer that Sean came over and said, "You ruined my life." That's a little different than "I'm going to kill you." But he came in here, and again, I'm not saying he's making stuff up or lying or whatever, but it's been 4 years, and he's a state's witness. So what do you think his position is on this case? What do you think his position is on this case? I'm pretty sure he believes that he's guilty, so he's going to come in and do whatever he has to do for the state. I think it's subconscious kind of what we do in some ways, but I don't want to say that he came in and lied because I don't believe that to be true. I think that they're good people. But that's not what he said. He said that Sean came over and said, "You ruined my life." He didn't threaten to kill him, but it sure sounds a lot better when he threatened to kill him. And he talked about her black eye and broken glasses, the one incident, right? The one incident they remember where they see her with bruises and stuff is a black eye and broken glasses. And that's what starts this whole thing. He remembers that. And I asked him, "How did you see it, or how did you figure that out?" Well, no, he was told by Mahogany. He was told by Dishman. Jennifer Miller came in from the Pint House. She filled in the gaps on who Sean Finnegan is, at least as an employee and as a worker. And that's someone who she would have seen quite often and worked with quite often because he was always there. And if anybody's worked in restaurants or bars, I bartended for years. I know Mr. Wallace bartended for years. It's a late night. It's a different lifestyle. You work when everybody else is not working, and you're working when other people are eating. And so when it gets to be 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, when the bar shuts down at 3 o'clock, the employees hang out and have their shift drinks, and they might stay around for another hour or two. So him being there from 5 o'clock in the afternoon to wind down like everybody else does, If you get off at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe you do whatever you need to do to wind down. It's the same way with restaurant workers. It's just at a different time of day.
Exactly.
So-
Third shifters.
Because of the time of day and the time of morning, there's different types of people involved too, right? In bars and stuff like that. So it is a completely different lifestyle. And if you've lived in that lifestyle, you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't lived in that lifestyle, I'm hoping that I'm explaining it well enough that it's just a little bit different than a 9-to-5 type of job. It just is. And the folks that are involved in restaurant work are usually fairly free-spirited. You know, it's to be a server or bartender, you have to be willing to speak in front of people and get a little crazy on occasion. And so it's just the way it is. And so I just want to let you know that that's where he was living.
But they didn't do none of that.
And he
They
lives
didn't
at
say
the
what
White
she
House.
passed. They didn't
right?
talk
He
about none
lives
of
at
her
home,
testimony. They
He
didn't
lives at
talk.
work. He lives at home and he lives at work. In between that, he's got to get his mom's medications and go to the doctor and do those other things. And he likes sex. And he's got a routine he does. He's got a simple routine. He goes every Friday and pays his thing. We all have the cousin or the friend in our life that they're not necessarily mentally handicapped. You know, they're not, I wouldn't say special needs or any of that kind of thing. I'm not trying to portray him in any way like the state is trying to portray Rebecca Dishman. I'm not trying to say that about him. But we all have that person in our life that's just kind of simple, just kind of straightforward and simple. And the actions that he's showing right here remind me of that person. And if you can have that kind of person in your life, how easy are they to manipulate? Can we heard from Lieutenant Robert
And she
Mansfield?
may have onset
He met with
dementia.
Dishman.
You know what I'm saying? Where they can't take her
The question
her
I had
testimony.
was it was unprompted. She just started telling him these things about the body in the freezer. All this. He didn't ask us. She just started telling these things. So who's controlling the narrative? Who's controlling the story? She's out of the house. Who's at the house with the body that she left there? Who's imprisoned here? Who can leave? Like I said, what was he supposed to do? If after that happened, the moment Rebecca hit her in the back of the head or in the head with a bat or whatever happened there, because I still don't know what happened there. I don't think you guys do either. We still don't know what happened. And that's what we're supposed to be determining, what happened. Most of this trial is about what happened after. Most of it, right? We've got all of the post-mortem injuries and all this kind of stuff in the body, in the freezer, and all of the graphic things that we spent most of our week looking at are all things that have to do with what happened after the fact. And that's what I told you at the beginning of this trial that we were going to be doing. But what you're here to do is to determine what led up to that and what happened and when it happened and who did it and who intended for it to happen. Not who got trapped by it. And now they're presenting Rebecca Dishman as the person who's trapped, right? She's under his thumb. He controls her. She's the servant. She's the slut bitch whore or whatever they had up here, right? And he's the master. Mufasa or Mufasa, whatever it is. I mean, they're going all out to paint him as this monster.
Baby, they got some
It's
hell of
not hard to
descriptors
do
on here.
when you have a mannequin filled up with all this stuff and these gross.
Yeah, she was 80
Right,
something. This 5 years later when they go to
paint him as a
trial.
monster, is it? It's just not hard to do because it was in his apartment and it was in his house, but he pled not guilty and under interrogation said, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. He never came off of that. I didn't do it. And so the state wants, now that they're coming off a little bit and saying, even if you just find him guilty of the kidnapping, that's still felony murder and you can still kill him. That's really what they're saying, right? And so if you could just find him guilty of the kidnapping, and even in his statement, maybe that's a felony kidnapping. That's what they're saying because he admits to chaining her back up. Well, go back and listen to his statement again, okay? Because you have to understand that everything that's said in an interrogation may or may not be absolutely true or correct because it's a high pressure, high stress situation. And false confessions are not, they happen.
False confessions do happen because people have a lot of trouble under pressure not admitting to some things. That's just true. These officers are very good at what they do. They're trained to interrogate people, and they're trained to get people to admit.
He's trying to get the man sent home free
and
tonight.
if you're a simple guy who's scared to death, admittedly scared to death, listen to it in that context. That's all I'm asking. Listen to it in that context, and then compare it to what she says, and then compare it to the facts, and see which one makes more sense. Because the thing that makes the most sense to me is, why would I kill her? Why would he kill her? I mean, they didn't present any motive, they're just basically are saying, look at him, he must be a serial killer or something, right? I mean, they're basically just setting it up like she's the easiest type of person for him to kill, I think is what he said. Like he was out there looking for somebody. That's
Pause. I'm trying to let it play through, but Snack say if Rebecca did it and left, she never had to say a word. It would have been him with the body, and she could have went on about her business. This is a tough one. She did what a scared person would do. Exactly. Great point, Snack. And you got to remember right then and there that might have been her very intentions, because her intentions was not to tell it. The only reason why she told about the body is because her plans and her escape to that shelter fell through, and she had already left out that house with her stuff. Mama Bates was already up there hollering about she gonna tell Sean, so she couldn't turn back. That probably was her intention.
That's what they're trying to convince you that he was doing. And none of that comes from anywhere. Except right there. She provides all the facts. All the facts. She provides all the facts. So let's take her at her word that the freezer was delivered before he got home with Jennifer Paxton. And because I think she said it was there for a little while. I think is what her testimony was it was there for a little while. It was like an offhand comment or whatever. If it was there before, which by the way, he ordered it the week of Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's. Anybody ever have extra food the week between Christmas and New Year's? I mean, it's the holiday season and works.
They didn't have that much food. They went ate mahogany food up.
There may be some extra food. He might have rented a freezer to put some food in. And the freezer's there. And she killed somebody and he had to do something. Maybe that happened. I don't know, because we don't know what happened. So not knowing what happened, they're asking you to convict him of all of these crimes, and then they're asking you to put him to death. Based on what Rebecca Dishman started and is trying to finish. Who's in control? All right, Larry Dowdle takes the stand. That's the officer that we heard the interview with Mr. Pico, and you hear him say he never had an issue with this man until today. That's a direct quote from the neighbor. Never had an issue with this man until today. Then we heard Brian Yook. I think I'm saying that right. He was just surveillance. He didn't really have a whole lot to offer. Margot Moore was called for service. They did some testing on dog chains and padlocks and all these different things. And there's no scientific evidence that links Sean Finnegan to ever touching Jennifer Paxton.
Which you talk about Rebecca or the victim?
But that chain was touched by Rebecca Dishman and Jennifer Paxton. And we have
That's a huge reach. Snack.
So what was going on while Sean was gone? Is she replacing whoever else was in there with the guy who owns the house, who then got stuck with trying to protect her? Because she's playing everybody. She's playing everybody, including the state, because they hitched their horse to her. They hitched their wagon to her. I mean, she's the horse, probably like one of the horses of the apocalypse. And then they hitched the wagon to her.
And now they're trying to take that wagon and they're trying to stick it out in front of her.
Lord, the moments when they
Because
do
they don't
too
think
much.
horses can
Not
push
the
wagons.
apocalypse.
That's not the way it works. She started it. She started pulling the wagon. She started it. And she started the story. And then every single piece of evidence, every single witness that got up here that you heard from was them trying to support what she said. Trying their best to support what she said.
Okay,
Because she cannot lie. She's too simple.
but hell, maybe Rebecca, maybe he's gonna kill
Even
Rebecca
if she
ass
said
too.
multiple things on the stand. They make the deal at the dog chain. There's two big dogs at that house. They're like two large dogs. There are leashes on the wall. There is a chain that's one of those chains with the spice. It's like a choke chain, which is, if anybody here has a big dog and leashes, knows that that's what you use to train big dogs on leashes. Because if they have any reason to chase a squirrel or something, they will pull you off your feet or out of your chair or any other thing if they're a large enough dog. And so those chains give you just a little bit more control of them. And they act like a Sinise. Does anybody know? A Sinise is like in the Da Vinci Code, where he wraps the thing around and he tightens it across his leg to give himself pain. They work kind of like that, but without cutting into the dog. And so they just kind of pinch in. If a human wore it, it would leave marks all the way around. But they had big dogs. There was a dog collar there. She knows what's in that house. And that's part of the problem, is that she's filling in these details, these little details that seem good. And so they start collecting all these evidence. And that's where I started to go a minute ago, and I got sidetracked. But the fireball bucket he talks about using for Jennifer Paxton to use the bathroom in. And so they collected the fireball bucket. And, there's no evidence that that was actually used for that. But the person who's telling the story knew it was there. So it sure seems like it corroborates her story, right? And she knew the chains and the locks were there. And so it corroborates her story. And there's these little things, but they come from her. And then when they test those items, it doesn't support her story. They're just there. They're just there. But those are enough details to make it sound somewhat believable, because she knows what's in the house. She spends her whole life there. She stays there 24 hours a day. She knows what's there and where it is. We heard from Tatiana Cochran from the forensic. They checked for bodily fluids and other biological matter. We talked about the swabs. They checked the blood and all these kind of things. And the only blood and DNA they found from Sean Finnegan and whatever was on the inside closet door by the kitchen, which would be a natural place for there's tools and stuff in there, like somebody cut their hand or something. But it's nothing to do with any of this. It's on the inside door of the kitchen in his house. It's not odd, and it doesn't mean anything. But her DNA is on some of the material that she described as being involved with Jennifer Paxton. And how did she know that? Because she did it. Because she had the opportunity to do it. And she's the only one who had the opportunity and the time to do it. And she trapped him. She trapped him. Because what's he supposed to do? He knew he was going to get blamed. He brought a prostitute home to his house and she died. Who's going to get blamed? Plus, Rebecca could leave anytime she wanted to. She was free. She could have just disappeared, and she wouldn't have been involved in this at all. Probably would have never heard her story. Probably would have none of it. But she could have just walked right out the door. But she didn't do that. You know why? Because she had control over him, and he provided her a house, food, all of the things that she needed. And she didn't want to give that up until 7 or 8 months passed, and it's time to move on to the next guy. And then she starts her process. She starts her escape process. And she starts feeding people the story of what happened there. And it all came, that's the source. That's the source. We talked about garbage in, garbage out. If you're going to be analyzing and trying to synthesize facts, you have to look at what the source of the fact is. What's the source of the fact? Because if you're analyzing garbage, your result is garbage, right? So let's think about where these facts come from. We're going to keep going. So far, I haven't seen anything that points to Sean Finnegan that didn't come from her mouth.
Right. He makes
So
a good
far,
point.
we've gotten this part of the trial. There's not a single thing that points to Sean Finnegan intending to kidnap anybody, intending to kill anybody. Nothing, except for what comes out of her mouth. Jennifer Millsaps testified that she tested the chain and the knives, but they also retested the knives. So they
That's
found
simple, Rebecca. That
Sean's
must start into
chef's
it. How
knives.
went
We
to?
keep talking about chef's knives.
Oh, he's
like
very
the 22.
committed. He trying for everything.
My favorite thing is that the slice with the
Exactly.
tattoos,
I would've
the
thought it
slice
was
over
silk.
here is that when they
That was
say, well, it
fun.
must have been a chef knife because it was a super sharp knife, like a chef's knife is some super fancy item. I mean, there are expensive chef's knives, but you probably have a sharp knife in your kitchen too. It's just a butcher knife. And if you sharpen your knives, they will be sharp also. A chef's knife, it might be a little bit better balanced. It might be maybe made from a little bit different material, but they're just knives. And you can sharpen them just like anybody can sharpen any other knife. So that's a red herring. And the reason why we know that is because they tested his knives and there's not even any blood on it. And they didn't even, the knives were given, they didn't even take the knives when they first searched the place. They were in a cabinet in the house. We need to hold them to a little bit higher standard, guys. I mean, they're supposed to produce evidence for you. And instead, what they've come in and they've tried to do this shock and awe campaign. Gross pictures, body in the freezer. This guy needs to rot. He's a part of this whole thing. Look how gross it is. This is disgusting. Here's some gross sex stuff. She must be an idiot, right? And that's their case. And use your common sense because finding evidence is hard. All right. They didn't test the padlocks. They didn't do any DNA on the padlocks. They didn't test any of that stuff. We don't have any of the Facebook communications that when they met or any of that kind of stuff. So we don't know what those conversations were. Let's see. John Hannon
I really wonder if you
testified
think they have to do a long closing.
just kind of briefly about what was going on at the house. There wasn't a whole lot there. Danny Miller from Rena Center testified, and he basically confirmed that Sean was a regular at Rena Center. He regularly rented different things. He might have even rented freezers before. I don't know. We don't have any records of that, do we? That'd be helpful. It'd be good to know. But what he confirmed was responsible dude, responsible guy, normal. That's what he confirmed. Then we got to Dr. Malusnik. And we still call her Dr. Malusnik, but it's Malusnik Polchin. She didn't marry a long time ago, and we still call her Dr. Malusnik. But she testifies about the injuries. She has no idea what happened there. So her job is to come in and just try to explain what caused these different things. And she's a very smart lady, and she does a wonderful job of explaining those things. And there's no denying the injuries. I mean, clearly torture, right? And clearly a murder. No one's arguing any of those things. But the things that she couldn't say, and the things that are difficult to say because of the frozen body, for whatever reason, but she can't tell you how long body was before it was frozen, really. She could give sort of a decomposition, maybe 4 days, even 2 to 4 days, I think. Freezing the body stops that. She can't tell you if the body was taken in or out of and put back in the freezer, however many times. So when they say that there's freezer burn and it's cut out here, whatever, they're suggesting that he quickly sliced her out of a freezer, did all that stuff, and got her under the bed and all that, that's where that cut came from. But there's no proof of that at all. That could have been any time during that 8 or 9 months, and she could have been put back. I mean, it could have been any time. So that's not proof beyond a reasonable doubt that that's even when that happened. But they're trying to use that to kind of chef's knife all of those things about those injuries. But the person that was at home with the body in the freezer, I assume observing it, maybe taking it out and looking at it, or making all those little cuts because she's a cutter and she's a Satanist.
You know what I thought about? He tried to say maybe he bought it for food, but he rented it on December 28th.
And she reacts poorly to things.
Ain't that much food left for another
Testified that she fought Sean, she hit back, she punched and stuff too. I mean, that's not an abuse victim. I've been around abuse victims. Abuse victims usually aren't fighters, generally. And so Dr. Malusnik-Polchin goes through the autopsy report, but she didn't perform the autopsy. So she's given an opinion, and she is an expert, and I will take her opinion on what those injuries are and all of those things, but she's not the one who performed the autopsy, and she really can't tell you anything about when it happened or who did it, or really how. I mean, she can say this was a sharp force or a blunt force, but the most that Indies can ever say is, well, that was maybe consistent with this or maybe consistent with that, and it usually means it's consistent with other things too. So the point of that is that great job, absolutely necessary to explain all the injuries and all of the torture and all of the things that happened to Miss Paxton, absolutely necessary, that did absolutely nothing to prove whether or not Sean Finnegan is guilty or not. They just did nothing to do that other than to allow them to say he's got chef knives. And so it would be hard to cut frozen skin and stuff, which that was the best thing she said, honestly, was it was really hard to cut through frozen skin, but somebody did it, right? I mean, it was done. So it doesn't matter if it's hard or not, it was done. And she was saying that because they're trying to play this strength battle. It had to be a man with a sharp knife, because it's got to be a man with a sharp knife. It can't be the sweet girl who doesn't ever do anything and is too innocent to lie. All right. Then we heard Sean's statement. And he's scared. He doesn't hide it. He's scared. I didn't know what to do. I was scared. What was I supposed to do? And that's what he keeps asking. And he says, I'm scared. And then he admits some things. He helped her. He helped her cover it up. But who held control? What was he supposed to do? What do you think she would have done? Because when they're talking to him like he's scared, it's almost like he's scared he's going to get beat up or something. That's not what he's scared of. He's scared of going to jail for something he didn't do. He's scared of being blamed for something that is brutal. Because he opened his door to this girl. Before he opened his door to this girl, the inside of that house was his and his elderly mother's and his 2 dogs who lived a regular life. And so they want to gloss over the Satanism, and they want to gloss over her prior, what she was before and what she was after. They want to gloss over her actions like she's the innocent. And that's a contradiction that I'm having trouble wrapping my head around. How can you let a mentally handicapped girl plead guilty to first-degree murder? They don't believe in mentally handicapped. So that means they're trying to pull the wool over your eyes, I suppose. I don't know. I don't really think that. I don't think they're trying to pull the wool over. I think they believe her. And that bothers me more. Because I think they believe her. And she's given absolutely zero reason to be believed.
But remember, he making the case that Rebecca was bigger and stronger at the time.
And if you don't
than
believe her, you
Sean.
can't find him guilty
And look at they side by side.
because she's the source of all their facts. She's the source of all of them, including who intended what, who did what. If he's opening up that freezer and masturbating to this body and all this kind of stuff, they didn't find any of his DNA anywhere near the freezer or the body or any of that kind of stuff. Hold on a second. I'll just walk over here for a second. Sean, can you stand up for a second? This criminal mastermind, sit down, please. That criminal mastermind right there. He could work a full-time job. He could take care of his mom. He could take care of his girlfriend.
At this moment, he
and
winging
he
it.
could take care of his dogs.
I don't know
He
why
could do
they
all
just
the things
don't
that
stop
he
at
needed
the head
to
of
do.
the gun.
And he can plan a murder, and he can pick up a hooker, and he can do all these things, and he can torture this girl for hours and hours and hours and hours, even though he's not there. And
I think they trying to
control
say he was
Rebecca
scared of her,
Dishman
child.
without having a leash, without having any chains, without having a GPS monitor, without having a cell phone to even call her on, without having any of those things. But somehow he's under control of her while he's working. That's what you have to believe. He's in control somehow. The only person who could not leave that house was in control somehow. Only one person is getting away with something here. And she took the stand. And if you believe any of the things that she said, then you're just being complicit with everybody else who believed all the things that she said. You can't let her control this from the start to the beginning. You can't. And you sure can't let the state kill somebody because she said so. Because that's where we are. That's where we are.
Right, because they should have found some of his sperm DNA in his burial.
I don't think that I asked you guys to do anything other than your job. I think that's all I asked.
Strength, especially a man versus woman strength. Most
That's all I'm asking now.
True, it's a difference.
And so it's about understanding what your job is. And your job is to make them do their job. Not to use your common sense to fill in the gaps of where they didn't do their job or where they weren't able to do their job. Because that's the other thing, is the way the system works is not because the police are bad or they can't, or they did a terrible job or something. Sometimes there's just not any evidence, and that's just part of the truth. So this is in no way an attack on police or any other thing, but there are certain issues with this investigation. And there's definitely some stuff I wish I had. It would tell me a whole lot of stuff. There's definitely some things that I wish were tested in that house that would tell me an awful lot of stuff. But because they were following the path laid out by Rebecca Dishman, some of the stuff got brushed away because he became the suspect on August 5th. He became the only suspect. She got charged, but she led the investigation first. And he's the one they want.
She could have been wiping everything down with bleach every damn day.
I'm the public
He could have been
prosecutor,
paranoid.
and so I have to make these decisions, right? And he has to make, and he's right. He's a public prosecutor. He's got to make these decisions. And they chose poorly because they got duped. Just like she's doing with every single level, every single step. She's still trying to grab control. She's writing him for months after they're in jail, professing her love and take me back and apologizing for lying. It's a strange thing to write to somebody, isn't it? When you're both charged with first-degree murder. I'm sorry for lying. Please take me back. She's still grasping at it. At the same time, writing Ramsey's. Where was Ramsey's? Who is Ramsey's? She's communicating with Ramsey's secretly on this Facebook thing. She's setting up fake Facebook things. She's at home by herself 12 or 13 hours a day, all this kind of stuff. Who's Ramsey's? Was he there? There's an unknown male. Did we test any DNA against that fella? I'm just curious. Because it sure seems like maybe somebody else was involved. And that's the problem. And here we are. So we've been here for a week, and we've seen a lot of disgusting stuff. And the state is going to ask you to find him guilty of all of these intentional crimes. And that's the key word, is intent. Did he intend to bring a hooker to his house for the purposes of kidnapping and killing her? Or did he intend to bring a hooker to his house for the same purpose that he had previously brought hookers to his house, for a threesome with his girlfriend that she requested? Read the text. And then something happened in that house, and he couldn't get out. Talk about trying to calculate or having processing problems. What if you came down out of the shower and your girlfriend had just knocked somebody over the head with a bat? And it was a hooker that you brought home. Process that one.
I like his approach much better than the prosecutor.
Process it.
No theatrics,
What do
but
you do?
he's still making his point.
When you're a 50-year-old man, she's a
Miss Steph said,
22-year-old.
yeah, he making me believe
do?
Rebecca did it, right? The whole case around Rebecca. So, hey.
Somebody had trouble processing. It wasn't her. She processes just fine. And she saved her own life, didn't she? She sure did. By coming in here and trying to kill him. She's pretty good at it. You may not like it, but you got to find him not guilty on this intentional crimes. Find him guilty of what he admitted to. But he didn't intend on anybody dying, and he sure didn't intend on kidnapping. He got stuck. He got trapped by the same girl who then trapped the police and the state prosecutor into having to put her on the stand to make their case. Because if they didn't put her on the stand, you wouldn't have any evidence, would you? Except a body in a freezer. You don't have a choice. You have to find him not guilty on the intentional crimes. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Anything that says rape, no proof of rape. He's charged with multiple counts of rape. That's straight from her. That's straight from her. That's her testimony, right? That he raped her or he raped Jennifer Paxton and all that. I didn't hear any evidence of rape, but he's charged with multiple counts of rape. And if there is, it came from her mouth, and that's it, because his DNA is not on anything. Semen's not on anything. No body hairs on anything. Nothing. There's just no evidence. It all comes from her. So at the end, you're going to go back and deliberate, and hopefully not chastise me too much.
Yep, and he could have called me
you
and
guys
put it
down
in
here
your
at
hand.
the end. You got to do your job. I mean, and it's a hard job, and you have to separate your emotion. And it's the most difficult thing in the world, and I know I'm asking you to do almost the impossible. But I'm asking you to do it because I'm telling you that it's what your duty is. We all have a duty. We all took oaths, and we came in here to do justice, and we came in here to do justice under the rules and according to the rules, and those rules are in place for a reason. And even if it makes your stomach turn to think about it, sometimes we still have to live by those rules because those rules apply beyond this case. Do your job. They didn't prove it. They just didn't. There's just not any evidence, except for Rebecca Dishman. You got to find him not guilty. Thank you.
All right. All right. All right. So we didn't hear the closing arguments from both sides. We shall come back tomorrow. Let me remind you guys, don't talk to nobody else about this case. Don't start deliberating yet.
Meet us back here tomorrow, same time, same place, same lit jury box. All right. Thank y'all for hanging in with me tonight. It was a long one. We will be wrapping up this case, Tennessee versus Sean Finnegan, on tomorrow, you guys. We are dismissed. Good night. And I'll be on time tomorrow.